When Kira and Charles Johnson first met in 2004, they planned to spend forever together.
Kira challenged me to be a better person in every single aspect of my life.
They were overjoyed when they welcomed their first son, Charles.
He's so handsome.
Their second son, Langston, soon followed, delivered through a routine C-section after a healthy pregnancy. It was April 12, 2016.
Hey, Langston.
Their celebration quickly turned to concern, though, when Charles noticed blood in Kira's catheter. He alerted doctors, but says minutes turned into hours.
I'm begging, I'm pleading for them to do something.
Finally, he says, after 10 hours, doctors decided Kira needed surgery.
Joins us now from Johannesburg. So, Deborah, Caster Semenya is looking to defend her world title and compete in upcoming races. How is this ruling going to impact her moving forward?
Well, Anne-Marie, it's pretty rough for Caster Semenya now because essentially this ruling is supposed to come into effect around next week, which means that she cannot run in races 400 meters, 800 meters or a mile unless she takes medication, which is potentially very harmful and which a lot of doctors say is against their ethics because their job is to do no harm, but to take this medication, it could harm a very healthy person. So it's unlikely that she will take medication. She's resisted that in the past, which means she can't run in those races as it stands now. She's actually in Doha. She left for Doha last night and she will continue trying to race. She has raced other tracks, 3,000 meters, 5,000 meters, so she might continue to do that as well. And also there will be some kind of challenge to this. The other option, which I don't think she'll take either, is that she could run as a man, which seems fairly ridiculous. She is a woman.
Inside Washington's Museum of the Bible, a single volume that is like no other. The so-called Slave Bible. Remarkable not for what's in it, but for what's not.
So about 90% of the Old Testament's been removed and about 50% of the New Testament's been removed. To put it another way, a normal King James Version has 1,189 chapters in it. The Slave Bible has only 232.
Missing are chapters and verses that might have encouraged uprisings. Book of Exodus, redacted. No story of Moses demanding Pharaoh, let my people go. Gone is Galatians, and the verse, there is neither bond nor free, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. And no Jeremiah. Woe unto him that useth his neighbor's service without wages.
What they've left in.
Following newly revealed video showing the controversial traffic stop with Sandra Bland, the 39-second cell phone footage recorded by Bland shows the moments before her arrest in 2015. She was found dead 3 days later, hanging in her jail cell. Her family is calling for a new investigation. Maria Villarreal is in Dallas. Maria, good morning.
Well, good morning. Sandra Bland's family says until recently they had never seen this cell phone video. Now, her arrest actually added fuel to an already heated conversation about how minorities are treated by police. Right now, you're going to get a first-hand look of how this arrest went down from Sandra Bland's eyes.
Well, you can step on out now.
I don't have to step out of my car.
Step out of the car.
As Texas Trooper Brian Encenia demanded Sandra Bland step out of her car, she grabbed her cell phone and began recording.
So you threatening to drag me out of my own car?
Get out of the car!
And then you gonna stop me?
The arrest was captured on dash cam video, but the cell phone video has not been publicly seen until now.
Only thing that stands in our way is our broken political system that's deliberately being undermined by our president to continue to abuse the power of the
The middle-class voters and unions. Other candidates trying to stand out in the crowded Democratic field, of which there are many. Here's one of them, 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. Nice to see you in person. It's great to see you. Officially meeting for the first time.
Democrats should be focused on.
I wonder if you were insulted by the sleight of hand there, or the sleight of lack of acknowledgement in Pittsburgh, you and the others.
Not at all. I mean, he was a sitting vice president for 8 years. He's leading in the polls. If I were him, I would have done the exact same thing.
Okay, interesting.
When Kira and Charles Johnson first met in 2000.
Welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. That's right, y'all. He's back. Live in effect. And I know some of you was probably like, what happened to Mr. Blows Your Mind? Man, I was getting a little comfortable with it. I know they had kind of took him off the air. Then he went through the 90 days, which again, I still don't know why I got the 90 days. But for your convenience for the day, you see how hard it was for me to get on. I had no sound. Then all of a sudden, things just doing what they're doing. I'm telling you, I'm the most hated show on the black corner of the internet, whether you want to believe that or not. That's up to you. But it is what it is, and you know I got to get it on because now I was back and I was live. So first and foremost, let me get this out the way. Just for those, again, I know a couple of you tried to get in here to see this live show. And so since there's probably nobody going to be here, you're going to see the retake. Just know that the show is back again live. And we're coming live and direct on the daily. Welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. Hello, this is Black Minds News, and I'm your host, the Whiteologist. This channel is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, articulate, relay, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, websites, or quotes from publications. As I, your Whiteologist, articulate this information, I ask that the creator of the universe be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit, because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created the greatest land that they call the United States, we as the descendants of ADOS of this land, we give honor to our ancestors. And on this show, when we do the news, I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. That's right, y'all. Mr. Blows Your Mind is back live in effect, and I'm pretty sure they got it so y'all can't hear. They want to be how the show go off, because again, I'm pretty sure they're trying to find a way to get me off. Because again, all I do is the news, right? I'm part of the black media. You know, we as black people out here, we don't have media. So somebody, some of us been chosen to be put out here, try to bring in some information that is already out here by other sources. So to say that most of this stuff is fake news, then you have to say that the people who are creating these news have to be fake as well. Because all we're doing is a outlet, you know, we will go and we sift through and see stories that we think are more relating to our people. And this is what we do. We'll bring this story on out here for you, right? So, you know I've been gone for a little bit, y'all, about a month since I did the last video. And the reason why I did that is due to the fact that I knew this day was coming. Actually, I could have been on a couple of days more earlier. But again, as I was coming on the day, I kind of figured I had to do some fidgeting, right, to get things going. And so, you know, again, it is what it is. Welcome back, subscribers, those who stayed and weathered through the storm. I want to thank you first and foremost, because again, you show that even though you see that something might be going on, Mr. Blows Your Mind ain't fell off the mountain yet. But the fact is that you stay persevered, and it is my duty now to bring you the best related information that I can give you that is out there, pertinent, that has to relate to everything that we are out here dealing with. Now, since so much has gone over in the last month, passerbys, I got to give you, I'm going to do it, let me get it right now. Let me get it right. Passerbys, welcome. You know, like a grand opening, go into his aisle, see something you like, pick it up, you know, go down to the library, might see some things in there. You know, some of the stuff in here, some people going to be a little offended by. But again, the truth kind of cuts like that, right? The truth Don't need no partner. It is what it is, and sometimes it cuts you wrong because, again, we all are susceptible to being cut by the truth. When I say all, that means include me and Mr. Blood Your Minds can get it too, right? The truth don't need no partner when it's throwing and cutting. So as you as a passerby, welcome to the Black Mind Show, news report show. Again, it is what it is. And agents, well, here we go again, right? So anyway, now, again, like I said, so much has been going on since I've been off. So again, I want to backtrack just a little bit, then move myself and get myself forward a little taste, And so I seen some things in a couple of people who are subscribers who constantly, Bernard Thomas and so forth, they constantly was keeping me with information and videos and things that they were seeing. A lot of stuff I was seeing too, you understand? And so I want to thank you for your persistence. And then you kind of, again, as you stop, you just didn't know I was around the corner coming in. So it's all good, brother, all right? So, all right, let's get into the show. I got some things in here I want to go and get off a little bit because, again, there's a lot of stuff out there in the news that's just kind of doing what it do, right? And so, sometimes, I look at stories as I'm going and sifting and doing my daily readings, and I see some things and I be like, man, okay, all right, they're talking about certain aspects, right? And we as, again, this show is Black Minds News, but again, according to what they say in evolution, right? If you want to go with that, right? So I guess that could pertain to everybody in some form or fashion. Again, in the modern day, you may have to shade and got yourself a little bit lighter, right? But again, if it's over here is, issue here, I'm pretty sure it's an issue where you at as well, right? But again, we disseminate information, again, like I said, what is more pertinent that I believe that is towards people of color. Doesn't mean that you as other people cannot hear, and this can be beneficial as well to you as well. So what I'm saying to you is this. I seen this story here and I said, well, okay, now a story like this is kind of like, we always hear things that are happening again when dealing with food. You see recalls, E. coli, right? Things of that, of that nature, right? And so I seen this and I said, okay, I done heard stories before when they're dealing with this kind of aspect. And I was like, well, let me go ahead and start the show off with something like this just to get my feet wet back again, get my feet in there to see touch the temperature. You understand? And so let me see if I can get it right here. And let me go ahead and play this. This is a reading. Let me go ahead and do this for you.
Cocaine found in shrimp. Shocking study reveals. I'm going to say that again. Cocaine found in shrimp. Shocking study reveals. Now, this story was done in Fox News, May the 1st, 2019, and this is how it reads. A study looking at freshwater marine life in the UK has an alarming conclusion. Cocaine, an illegal pesticide inside freshwater shrimp. The research looked at the exposure of wildlife, including the freshwater shrimp, Gammarus pulex, to different micropollutants, when the researchers came to the startling revelations. Although concentrations were low, we were able to identify compounds that might be of concern to the environment and, crucially, which might pose a risk to wildlife, the study lead's author, Dr. Thomas Miller, said in a statement. Dr. Miller continued, as part of our ongoing work, we found that the most frequently detected compounds were illicit drugs, including cocaine and ketamine and a banned pesticide, phenuron. Although for many of these, the potential for any effect is likely to be low. Ketamine is a powerful drug that has been used to provide pain relief and sedation and is often likened to opioids, but it is not a member of the opioid family. Samplers were tested from 15 different locations across Suffolk, and all of them came back positive for cocaine, which Dr. Leonard Barron found surprising. Such regular occurrence of illicit drugs in wildlife was surprising, Dr. Barron said in a statement. You might expect to see these in urban areas such as London, but not in smaller and more rural catchments. At this time, it is unclear how the cocaine and the banned pesticide entered the shrimp, Dr. Behrens added. Further research is needed to determine if it's an issue only for Supacs or if the issue is more widespread. Burry said whether the presence of cocaine in aquatic animals is an issue for Supacs or more widespread in occurrence in the UK and abroad awaits further research. Environmental health has attracted much attention from the public due to challenges associated with climate change and microplastic pollution. However, the impact of invisible chemical pollution, such as drugs, on wildlife health needs more focus in the UK, Burry added. The study was published in the scientific journal Environmental International. All right, look like we back here, right? All right, so what we see is that cocaine was found in shrimp. They said shocking study reveals. Now, we as black people, you know what I'm saying? You know, again, black people, again, if you're from where I'm from, you know, you kind of live in them areas where it seems like people of other nations, when they come here, they get a chance to provide you foods and services, right? So, you know, one of the main things that seems like black people have an affinity for is what? Chinese food, right? Well, we be in there, first thing we get some Chinese rice, right? And that shrimp fried rice, matter of fact, probably for lunch, I'm probably going to get me some. But, again, I know some people got, they probably tell me, oh, they got cats and dogs. But anyway, so we see that a study come out that they find that there's something wrong with the shrimp. Right? So they said they took a study that, again, they talking about the marine life in UK, right? And they said there was some illegal pesticides inside the freshwater shrimp. Now, again, how shrimp get into the cocaine is the question, right? How can shrimp, again, you know, they kind of like scavengers down at the bottom and down there, you know what I'm saying, just eating what they can get. And so what we seeing is they getting cocaine. Not in some, they say it's possibly abroad. So they're saying that, okay, they start doing the research and there's exposure to the wildlife. And they were just saying, well, we was doing wildlife and we was starting to see some substance there. And then we started looking at freshwater and said this Gomaris polex, right? This was a specific type of, I guess, shrimp, right? And so they said, well, you know, we're seeing some levels in it that might pose a risk to wildlife, right? And so they start doing the testing, and what they've come to find out that there's cocaine and ketamine. Now, again, this ketamine is a banned pesticide as well as this furan. Now, you got to do your research for that if you want to get a little more in depth in that. But the potential for any effects is likely. You know, they always going to tell you it's likely. You know, like, you know, there's some people think that, like, let's say, for instance, right, you know how I do it. Those who are familiar with my show, I always going to give you the analytical aspect to it again, right? And so let's say if something was to be true, let's just take soda, right? Let's say a lot of people consume a lot of soda. You know, a lot of people getting healthy, they're trying to get off of it. But let's say the consumption of a lot of soda, as if like soda is healthy. Because you don't see no studies that's going to tell you, is there any, you know, health benefits in it, or is it something that is doing detriment to it, right? So there's nothing on that. They don't talk about it. So you would assume that, you know, if you're consuming and drinking a lot of soda, that, you know, it's just sugar with some chemicals, and yeah, I understand, but long prolonged use don't have no effects on you. At least that's what nobody tells us. So anytime when I hear somebody say likely to be low, that's just them just saying, even if it was, do you think we gonna tell you the truth? You know, some people believe that they're gonna tell you the truth. Not gonna never tell you the truth. And there's some people that say you got to get the facts. You know, like either old school people used to tell us certain things, and because they couldn't give you the fact to it. Now, it depends on your relationship with them, whether you believe them or not, or you need to, some people have to be literal, right? Tangible. You got to see it in order to believe it. But if somebody tell you something, you don't believe it, right? You got a lot of people out here like that. So here it is, they're doing the research, doing the studies, and come to find out there's ketamine, there's cocaine, right? There's a lot of other illegal something. Where is they getting this from? Is this supposed to be freshwater, creatures, right? So it says ketamine is a powerful drug that has been used. It provides pain relief and sedation, right? They say it's kind of like opioids, right? Opioids. I don't know, I have sometimes a tongue tie when I'm saying that, opioids, right? But it's not a member of the opioid, and we seeing what opioid is doing in this nation, right? Matter of fact, they calling it a kind of a tragedy, or they calling it a epidemic, right? But when crack was hitting with us, it wasn't no epidemic, it wasn't no medical emergency. It was just lock their ass up, right? You know what I'm saying. All right, anyway, so according to when they did the samples, they did about 15 different locations. All of them came back positive with cocaine. Now again, you consuming a lot of shrimp, possibility you might have trace of cocaine. Go do, let's say, job decide to give you drug test. You go take it, like, man, I don't do nothing. I'm clean. You go in it, because go back, those who've been around a little bit, remember when it used to be them poppy seeds on top of that hamburger when you get from, I think Burger King, right? I think Burger King had them seeds on there, right? Them two will come up positive on the test. Now, if you sat there and ate some of that and then when took that test, you come up positive and lost your job, not knowing the simple fact that you was eating some of that, them poppies on them had that in it. Again, poppy, right? Poppy seeds, right? Okay, but anyway, so here it is. If you've been eating shrimp, you might come back tested, again, cocaine in your system. Because why? It's all up in the shrimp. But they say we don't know how it got there. So they say such regular occurrences of illicit drugs in wildlife was surprising. And like, where is it coming from? Well, I guess because, again, the eyes view we get a lot of times is we get to see people doing what? We watch movies and they always talking about these drugs, right? They show you with the boat and they got the cocaine, and they drying over the water and they dumping the water so somebody else can get it. So I guess there's so much traffic with drugs and people not picking them up that they're going to the bottom of the water, which is infiltrating, and now the wildlife is getting to it, and so now they got it. So it's just, you know what I'm saying? Everybody getting some, right? And so when we consuming this stuff, we're going to get it too. Now, if they talking about illicit drugs, they're talking about something that's sedating, it's a painkiller, So again, this is a melocop cocktail, right? This place is becoming a place of just, you don't know what you're getting. I don't care what it say on the box. Like some people got this, infatuation because they say, I'm going vegan. I'm healthy now. Right? I'm going to, right? So you're going to be healthy, and the box may say organic. But unless you grew it, unless you know that's not GMO, guess what? You don't know what you're getting. And not till later on, till when you going to the doctor and the doctor telling you you got this, and you trying to figure out, how I get this when I've been trying to maintain myself. Because again, cause and effects. You can't build nuclear weapons and the energy and all that stuff and then think you can just bury it like Chernobyl, right? Well, the only way they could do it is just to bury it. You can't take Fukushima and just say, well, we're just going to let it run its course. That stuff toxic, and it's just constantly moving. So where is it going? Where is it safe? You get what I'm saying? And so the same thing is happening here in the wildlife when it comes to this food, what we call shrimp. Now it says that, I think it also talked about that they might expect to see these in urban areas such as in London. Now, they say, again, urban. Now, we know what urban means, right? Well, this should be where, like this, designated area, these red line areas, this is where this should be. It should not be, again, see, that's the problem with some people. You think that you can, do things that might be designed, and not maybe you particularly, what I'm saying, but I'm just saying in general, those people who do, that's what they here to do, is to, cause riffraff and cause dissension against other people because they got their own plan. But again, you can't give here and think that it won't spill over to your own self, right? And so we're seeing that in this aspect. So they say it's surprising that it's in, we can expect it in the urban, because again, if you live where I'm from, and you know, again, as I said earlier, we're talking about, you know, Chinese food, you got the Indians in the bodegas, and, you know, we got other people who give us food, and a lot of that stuff probably is expired food that they get for the cheap, resell it to you, and then you eating it, and then they're passing off as it's edible and, you know, good for consumption, not knowing that it's already old, outdated, and so forth, but they're just reselling it, you know what I'm saying, that kind of market, right? Because, you know, in the hoods, we don't be having no fresh, you know, fruits, none of that stuff, right? They talked about the bottled water, again, distribution, coming on trucks, designate. You never know where you getting your stuff when it's coming, right? So they said that this issue may be more widespread, challenges associated with climate change and microplastic pollution. So they're saying the impact of invisible chemical pollution, right? So they just kind of say, well, maybe it's coming from somewhere else. No, we know, you know where it's coming from, but you're not going to tell the people that, right? We understand that. We understand that. So I just want to bring that up to start the show off with a little bit there. Let's see if I got a couple people in the house there. I want to thank y'all for coming, stopping by, checking out the show here. This is Mr. Blows Your Mind. This is Black Minds News. We're going to try to come on daily. So you want again, come on, stop by, you know what I'm saying, and, you know, enjoy what we do over here. Because, again, I just got off my 90 days suspension. For what? I cannot tell you what it was about. All I know is that I was suspended for 90 days. Now I'm back. So if you had been over here trying to subscribe to get into it, this is the time to do it, because I am back until they come up with something new. So, okay, check this out. And for those of you sitting on your hand, you know, I do a little PSA before I get on to the next thing. So check this out and I'll be right back.
When Kira and Charles Johnson first met in 2004, they planned to spend forever together.
Kira challenged me to be a better person in every single aspect of my life.
They were overjoyed when they welcomed their first son, Charles.
He's so handsome.
Their second son, Langston, soon followed, delivered through a routine C-section after a healthy pregnancy. It was April 12, 2016.
Hey, Langston.
Their celebration quickly turned to concern, though, when Charles noticed blood in Kira's catheter. He alerted doctors, but says minutes turned into hours.
I'm begging, I'm pleading for them to do something.
Finally, he says, after 10 hours, doctors decided Kira needed surgery, but it was too late. Kira hemorrhaged to death. She was 39 years old.
Never imagined that I'd be sitting here today and that we would have left that hospital without my wife.
About 700 women die each year in the U.S. due to pregnancy or delivery complications, and African American mothers are 4 times more likely to be victims than white women. Dr. Valerie Montgomery Rice says the causes of racial disparity aren't fully known.
I definitely think that there is a level of unconscious and conscious bias that occurs in medical settings.
Charles Johnson has turned his tragedy into action, helping to pass the Preventing Maternal Deaths Act, which became law last year. It requires states to review every pregnancy-related death. Charles' other fight, making sure his boys remember their mother.
The toughest question my sons have ever asked me is Mommy mad at me? Well, why won't she come home?
His answer, Mommy is in heaven and loves you forever.
I think Kira's legacy will be one of being able to show people that regardless of the circumstances, that love always wins.
And Charles says his message to the medical community, listen to women when they say something doesn't feel right, Kate.
It's so heartbreaking. What can hospitals do?
Well, Kate, hospitals across the country are starting to develop protocols to deal with emergencies like Kira's. And Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, which is where Kira passed away, said they can't comment on specific cases, but added it thoroughly investigates any situation where there are concerns about a patient's medical care. Charles speaking out to try to save lives.
Such an important conversation. Kristen, thank you so much for the story.
Hey, NBC News fans.
"700 women die each year from pregnancy issues. The CDC says most of these deaths could be prevented." You know I'm going to say that again. 700 women die each year pregnancy issues. The CDC says most of these deaths could be prevented. Now, this story comes out of the Washington Post. Looks like the story was done May 8, 2019. And this is how it reads. On the caption says the United States has the highest pregnancy-related mortality rate among developed nations. Stunning figures suggest half of these deaths could have been prevented, and that black women are 3 to 4 times as likely to die as white women. Again, the story was done not May 8, but May 7, 2019, from the Washington Post, and this is how it reads. Hundreds of women die preventable deaths of complications from pregnancy each year in the United States, each week's or months after childbirth, according to a report from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Health experts say recognizing contributing factors such as racial disparity and working towards solutions are key in saving lives. The CDC confirmed in a report released Tuesday that about 700 women die each year in the United States from cardiovascular conditions, infections, hemorrhages, and other complications related to their pregnancies, up to a year after delivering their babies. In about 60% of the cases, the death could have been prevented, in parts with proper medical intervention, as well as better access to it, the researcher noted. The bottom line is that too many women are dying largely preventable deaths associated with their pregnancies. And Shoshak, CDC Principal Deputy Director, said Tuesday during a news call, "We have the means to identify and close gaps in the care they receive. We can't prevent every one of these tragedies," Shoshak added, "but we can and should do more." CDC researcher analyzed national data between 2011 and 2015 from its pregnancy mortality surveillance system, as well as data between 2013 and 2017 from the Maternal Mortality Review Committee in 13 states. The findings confirmed that there were more than 3,400 pregnancy-related deaths over a 5-year period in the United States. Laura Riley, chair of obstetrics and gynecology at Weill Cornell Medicine and chief obstetricians at New York Presbyterian Hospital, said the new CDC report confirms what medical professionals have been seeing in studies in the past several years, but that the details and the data are key to understanding it. Once you can start to understand the causes of these deaths and the contributing factors, you can start to create meaningful interventions, she said in an email to the Washington Post. Preventability is very important and puts the responsibility squarely on providers, public health groups, and hospitals. The CDC researchers noted in the report that 1/3 of the women studied died during pregnancy, and that another third died during childbirth or within the week after it. But another third died weeks or months after delivering, up to a year after their babies were born. For the women who died more than a week postpartum, 21% died 7 to 42 days after childbirth, and nearly 12% died 43 to 365 days after childbirth. The leading cause of death was cardiovascular conditions such as heart disease and stroke, which accounted for 33% of pregnancy-related deaths. Infections accounted for nearly 13%, and obstetric hemorrhage accounted for 11%. The cause of death could not be determined in nearly 7% of the cases, according to the report. The researchers said there were many contributing factors, including access to proper medical care, missed or delayed diagnosis, or warning signs that went unnoticed. But the researchers not only looked at why the women died, but also who the women were, confirming racial disparities in maternal mortality across the United States. According to the report, Black and American Indian, Alaskan Native women were about 3 times as likely as white women to die of pregnancy-related issues. Emily Peterson, co-author of Report and medical officer in the CDC Division of Reproductive Health, said researchers have known about the racial disparity between black and white women concerning maternal mortality or mortality. But she noted that although some disparities have been attributed to challenges with access to care, we don't think this explains everything. The reason for this higher prevalence is still being explored, and one emergent theory is the effect of weathering or early aging of the body due to chronic stress related to the structural racism or systematic racism and its impact on health. There's also a growing body of research in the role of structural racism and implicit bias in healthcare and impact on patients' care and outcomes. She said, noting that many hospitals have already started to implement training for their staff members. Experts say there's no simple solution. The researcher said in the report that no single intervention is enough, suggesting a multi-pronged approach to reduce pregnancy-related deaths by reviewing and learning from each death, improving women's health, and reducing social inequalities across the lifespan, as well as ensuring quality care for pregnant and postpartum women. Riley, the chair of obstetrics and gynecology at Weill Cornell Medicine, said medical professionals need to focus our efforts on heart disease prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. Many would not expect this to occur in young women. All right, so we back. I want to say first and foremost, what's good, Cheryl Ruth? How you doing, sister? And Sharon Washington, my other sister out there. I want to say I see your message out there. So I'm let you know, yeah, I gonna do it. I gotta do it, right? So, and yes, you connected this only because I was off of them 90 days, sister. You know, like I said, I can't tell you why they had me off for 90 days, but they did it anyway. So maybe you have to look at it this way. Again, my motto is I'm the most hated show on the black corner of the internet, because I don't do, and again, it's not some competition about what other people do, because I mind my own business. But if you are avid watching this show, I do. When everybody looking left, I'll go right. And when they were looking right, I'll go left. So when I did put certain things out there, I put the entirety, and I think it goes back to, if you remember when they was talking about that whole thing of the Covington. If anybody seen that live that day, remember I gave you from A to Z. And remember when they spent it, they made everybody else guilty. But when I got done, you understand, it was all laid out for you. So you could make a good, honest decision of what really took place. And so I think I was penalized for that, right? They found some
something else, talking about a piece of a clip, dude doing a 3-car molly, so it didn't make sense. So obviously what I'm doing is effective, and the reason why they don't want this show to get out there. But, I do what I got to do. And I thank y'all for being here. Hit that like button if you don't mind. So anyway, let's get into this. So beginning, we see that you have a brother and sister, again, trying to put that black love together, trying to copulate, bring family, right? And the most beautiful thing in a relationship after, you done got acquainted with each other and got that, that fire out between you and then it starts to producing life. Now we're going, the continuation of us, right? And that's the most beautiful part. Those who have, again, from my perspective, a man being there and seeing that and being a part of that, man, I mean, there ain't too many things that can actually top that. Because you're seeing the person who you love, you bring a life together. So you're seeing that person and seeing them bringing this one coming in, right? So it's a beautiful occasion there, right? And then to see that, to go through what he's gone through, right? Due to the simple fact of just childbirth. Now, again, those who've been around a little bit, you remember watching TV back in the day, especially them old westerns, right? You never see the black woman there, but you see the white woman having the baby, and she died because she had the baby, can't take the pain, right? So it's kind of like, okay, childbirth could always put you in that state, right? At least that's the way they portrayed it there, okay? So, I don't know, black women strong, right? Endure, they carrying the whole nation, having babies and suckling massive baby, multitasking. When you look up the word multitasking, she had a picture of the black woman in there, right? Because she done did the most multitasking, especially on the feminine side, right? She's pretty damn, I say, on both sides, right? I say she getting down both. But anyway, so with that being said, right? So we're seeing that now. They come out, and this story actually just came out this morning, right? And they were just saying hundreds of women that die each year from pregnancy issues. So you would think that based on the fact that how this came out is stating that women, and the story specify what particular women, right? There's a particular type of women who, and another particular woman this ain't happening to. So again, as a whiteologist, I look at those type of things and say, okay, everything ain't glitter ain't gold, and everything they said, you always got a slant to it, so you got to always look at it, right? So, okay, so most of the deaths could be prevented. Now, okay, so goes on to the rest of it. It talks about how, women, especially in the United States, and again, the United States is supposed to be considered a first world country. This is something that would seem more primitive, third world, right? That women would be having the kind of complications at childbirth when you are not medically, let's say, technology and medicine has not advanced, right? And when I say I don't mean particularly us, because we are encapsulated inside of a game, right? So we can't really have the real say so. Because again, it's kind of like, all right, I might have used this before. Remember back in the days, who've been around, used to go into the laundromat, right? You used to wash your clothes, right? They go in there, and then they had a scale in there. Throw the penny in there, get on there and get on the scale, see your weight. You try to, I'm pretty sure some women, I don't know why women always had a problem with knowing what they weight. Because again, if you well proportioned in scope, then that's just probably is going to be it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have that conversation with the creator one day. Hey, you made me too thick. God, you know what I'm saying? I want to be slim like Marsha, Brady, and anyway. So you would get on the scale, and then you try to get this idealistic weight, right? You get the idealistic weight. And then it would have this, 5'5" should be this, female, 5 for the man, But again, when you looked at that, you try to, say that this is the way you should be. But again, that was somebody else's, structure. Somebody else's genetic. That wasn't yours. That was theirs. So here it is. You already kind of under, the mindset of what your ideology is not even, is outside of yourself. So you're trying to fit somebody else. This square peg is trying to fit in this round hole. Your body structure is different. Everything about you is different. So Western medicine and science is not really so much with you in mind. It's about them, right? So anyway, So we see now that, again, as me being this show as Black Minds News, I was the one that put out about 5-6 years ago, extinction of the white race, and that made that some people think I was talking about killing them. No. That ain't me. That ain't me trying to kill nobody. That was just the data showing that there was something going on in white folks about them not having to be able to procreate and having babies. So now that we know since then till now, they've been having babies and twins and everything else, but now it looks like those on the other side is now having complications that can't come to full terms. Either the baby gonna live or the mama gonna die. You understand what I'm saying? So here's this story came out today, talking about, man, even weeks or months after the childbirth, right? The possibility, and again, at the end, the very end of it said young. It didn't say older, because they're making it now like if you in your late 30s or 40s having a baby, the baby gonna come out autistic. Like, why? Why the baby gotta be autistic? 30, 40 now, all of a sudden, it's like, shit, the new 60, 70? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that ain't, you know what I'm saying? That still ain't got the brand new car scent on it. It's you know what I'm saying? It's smelling like Geritol and everything else now. Come on, man, stop it. So, again, we're going to go on to this, right? So again, it says that some of the contributing factors, they said in this article, was talking about racial disparity. Now, as we as black folks, that's the name of the game. I know a lot of people again, so everybody's like, we can't talk about race. What? Wait a minute. That is the name of the game. That is the only game in town that this nation knows. So we need to stop playing with that. That is what it is. Why are we trying to act as if like that's not part of the game? I know some people that wait a minute. When did it go away? Oh, acting like it don't exist means it went away, and then yet people still doing things. And then here it is, racial disparity in medicine, in the medical field. You heard in the video where the brother said that after the childbirth, he started noticing blood was going into the catheter of his wife. He goes to the doctor and says, hey man, she bleeding. There, like he just talking. And did you hear the time? Let me say that again. Did you hear the time that they said it took for them to come in there to finally say, she need to go to surgery? Oh my God, she's got to go to surgery. 10 hours? Man, wait a minute. Did anybody see the movie John Q? That's what would have happened. You seen the movie John Q? That's exactly what would have happened. Oh, you going up in there. You going in there or you leaving here. One of the two. 10 hours? That's unexplainable. You know damn well if Becky, Sue in there, and he come in there, they coming in, ain't gonna take no 10 hours. You understand? You would have had to say the whole city was on some kind of outbreak in order for you to be able to get through that. 10 hours? 10 hours? Come on, man. Right. So anyway, so they said the CDC confirmed in a report that about 700 women die each year. But check this out. See, it's a sleight of hand here, right? Because they say, well, they dying, but they dying from cardiovascular conditions, infections and hemorrhaging and other complications that are related to the pregnancy, right? That's what they're saying, right? And some of them, they're saying, could be a year after delivering the baby. They said 60% of the cases, right, is due to, could have been, with proper medical interventions, right? At least, again, like I said, if you, as a man, happen to have gone through those experiences doing it, you go get the ultrasound and go with the checkup, make sure the baby all right and everything. So there's a little process. I don't know too many women who pregnant who don't go to the doctor at all. You get what I'm saying? Maybe back in with a Little House on the Prairie, some shit like that. Oh, shit, we can't hold that down. Right? Some Little House on the Prairie, something like that, you might, we ain't going to no doctor. But, pretty much today, everybody kind of, especially black women, very conscious about their health. They drink the Kool-Aid better than anybody. The most educated in this place. Black women drink the Kool-Aid better than anybody when the state comes to, you understand? So, I'm just saying, that's no knock on you sisters. And I don't mean every sister, but you know what I'm talking about when I say that, right? So complications related to the pregnancy, they talking about cardiovascular. They talking about things outside of the pregnancy, right? And then they say, we have the means to identify and close the gaps in the care that they receive. You have the means. Okay. But there's also another problem here. Again, it's not just the fact of the care. There's other factors that are contributing to it. And it's going to be hidden. It ain't going to be something you're going to reveal, right? You're not going to reveal that. So they said the researchers in CDC, I think they said about the national data between 2011 and 2015, they were saying that they got a system called Pregnancy Mortality Surveillance System. Pregnancy Mortality Surveillance System, right? Where they get the data. And from 2013 to 2017, they said the Maternal Mortality Review Committee, they even got a committee. Now check that, they got a committee, right? They got a committee and a system. And so far, according to this story, they said it was only about 13 states that got it. Now, they said it was more than 3,400. Now, again, they said 700 die a year. But this says more than 3,400. You know how they is when they do our numbers, right? They'll tell you that the unemployment is only about 30% in the black community. But that should be twice that, be 60%. So you know the numbers got to be high, and they don't want to bring the alarm. They don't want to sound the alarm, right? So I'm just bringing this again just for the informational aspect about it. Again, we may not be knowing it. Again, it could be sparingly, again, but it all adds up at the end, right? It's not about whether you just get a hold. But again, if somebody is systematically doing something to you and you unbeknownst to you are not paying attention, then you don't know, right? And so they said the medical professions have been seeing in the studies in the past several years. What do you mean in the studies? You've been noticing it and you just dragging your feet about it, right? So they say, well, once you can understand the causes of these deaths and the contributing factors, you can start to create a meaningful intervention. The cause of the death. Well, is the cause of the death due to complications in the childbirthing, or is it the complications outside of it? Like, because again, cardiovascular has something to do with, again, right, going back to the consumption of eating and pollutants and toxins and all this stuff that you're consuming. Again, like I say, you can drink so much soda, but there ain't it's nothing bad for your health, but it's nothing good for your health. It's just down the middle, and you never know. But then prolonged use, then you're talking about, oh, you got cardiovascular, but nobody can tell you how you got it. How'd you get it? They ain't gonna tell you how you got it, right? So now what you got is, it says that the preventability is very important, puts responsibility squarely on providers, public health groups, and hospitals. Now, again, if a woman is going to see her, with an obstetrician or gynecologist, right? I guess the one, I'm not sure, you ladies have to correct me on that, right? And Leonard DeYuta in the crib. What's good? What the fuck? All right, it's all good, brother. It's all good. I had to do. I'm getting back my feet wet, man. I know I've been out the game. Don't disturb me like that. What's good though, brother? So it said preventability important and puts a responsibility square on the providers, public health groups, and hospitals. That's your job anyway. Isn't that what you're paying insurance for? And that's what you're paying the doctor bill for? I go there to see you. If you understand what the trends are, the study, you got the committee, then you should be telling me, hey, we need to run some tests on you to make sure that, okay, you running optimal so that you can have a full-term birth and not have no complications. But also in that video that you seen, she was having a C-section. And lately they've been doing a lot of C-sections, right? And those C-sections, again, it kind of go 50-50, can go both ways. You don't know what Dr. Kevorkian between your legs. You understand? You don't know who the Kevorkian is. Dr. Kevorkian, who been around you. Dr. Kevorkian under your legs. And again, evaluating. Again, because again, we got to remember there's got to be some kind of, culling. Remember I told you about the
Georgia Guidestones, or what it said on them Georgia Guidestones, 500 million people only supposed to be left on the planet, right? You got 7 to 10 billion people on the planet right now. How you gonna get 500 billion? How you gonna get down to 500 million? So that means right now you got an outbreak of measles and all kinds of stuff going on. You got Ebola going wild up in Africa, right? You just got all kind of stuff going on, right? Right? So anyway, moving on. So I'm just saying, yes, squarely, all that's going to fall on you because that's what I pay my service for you to do, right? So they say 1/3 of the women studied died during pregnancy and another third died after childbirth. Again, they contributed to cardiovascular conditions, heart disease, and stroke. So that's nothing to do with the pregnancy, right? That's because most of us that ain't too bougie, got good job, that live in, environments. We live in environments that create and, shit. Think about it. Every time you walk out the damn door, if you gunfire, liable to get robbed, you understand? The corner store say you already expired, no good ass food. You understand? Of course. And you live in a system that is constantly oppressing you, constantly harassing you. You can just hear, woo, and your ass is, you feeling some kind of way, right? You know what I'm saying? So much got you always under stress, of course, under pressure. So even the story talked about that, right? It said that, right? So it also goes on, talked about, again, it gave some more numbers to that. And then it says that they said, now check this out, it said access to proper medical care, missed or delayed diagnosis, warning signs that were unnoticed. Well, that's what the doctors paid for. Like they used to hear them stories back in the day talking about, I left an object in your body. You know what I'm saying? You kind of find they left something, you did some surgery, they left something up in you. Unnoticed, misdiagnosed, right? Malpractice, right? That's what they call it, right? So, but the person dead, so only they would know that you misdiagnosed me or didn't do the proper. Only that person, because let's say like in the beginning of the video, the husband, he don't know everything that went on between the conversation between the wife and the obstetrician or gynecologist, whoever that is, right? He don't know what that was. So he left back holding the bag with the kids. And then just imagine he's a brother that's already under the struggle, and then he ended up got the kids because she might have been the one that had all the money. So now you see how this cutting? You understand what I'm saying? So we got to be mindful of stuff like that, right? So let me go and finish this up. I got more stuff to get into. So goes on. It says that the researchers have known about the racial disparities between black and white women concerning maternal mortality. Noted that although some disparities have been attributed to challenges with access to care, we don't think this explains everything. Of course, it don't explain everything because again, we understand the disparity in this country. We understand again when they start talking about the data, talking about wealth gap, right? That the most educated black person and what they make is equivalent to a high school white person graduating out of high school. Right? So there's a disparity here. Now that don't mean, hey, somebody's not me. Well, maybe not you. But again, if you want to be an individual, you're an individual. But if you want to look at it as a whole, then you understand, right? And so, of course they know that. Because again, if 2044 is a mark date to say that some people are going to fall down from a majority to a minority, do you think somebody can go? I played that video one time, that clip. Remember when I talked about can't go into sleep at night? They was working, the sciences, all this, trying to working, trying to come up with the magic elixir, right? So when you in a position of somebody got you under what they say soft war, you better look at all ways of how people coming and going, right? All right, so it goes on to high prevalences, emergent theories, effects of weathering, of early aging of the body due to chronic stress. See? Somebody already done did the study to know that if we keep a people oppressed, stressed, and in fear, besides that being how you living, it does something to you, you understand, in your physical. Think about that. I can do something to you
again, remote controlling. I got you under remote control. I'm messing with you even when you don't know I'm messing with you. And they even got the studies to know that that is what it is. That's why they could put it in the article and say what they're saying. So they said the growing body of research on the role of structural racism and the implicit bias in health care and its impact on patient care and outcome. They already know this. So now that they're training their physicians and nurses to implement training for their staff members, how you going to train for that? Again, I done said once upon a time when I told you that trauma is something that can be passed down through your genes to your next seed. Huh? How you going to fix that? You can't fix that. You can't fix that until you fix the cause. You know how to begin to say the cause and effect. Until you can get the cause, then you can change the effects. You can't put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound and say you healed. Oh, it's slowing it down. No, you got to figure out how to stop that damn blood coming out. That's the cause. Then you can have some effect with you to cure yourself, right? So anyway, I just want to bring that to let sisters know, because sometimes I think some of these brothers out here, they don't want to talk about that because they want to act as if, like, again, I look at this as both, as whole, right? You can't have one without the other. I can't exist as me being a black man if I didn't have a black mama. You understand? And so I know some of us brothers, we done went through situations where some women might have done you wrong. You know, that's how you became a man. That's how you became a man. You had to get that heart broke to get that man card. Because if you didn't, then what they calling them days, simps and everything else, that's what you going to be. So you done learn to get a little tough skin. And not every sister do it. But it go vice versa. Women get it too. That's why they you know what I'm saying? They end up, again, being who they is. So, but you put it together, and what you birth is you building soldiers and strength. And that's what we got to remind ourselves and get back on. So, let me show you something else, man. Let me show y'all something else, right? I seen this story here. I sat around, like I said, I sat about for about a good month. I watched a lot of people doing what they was doing, and I seen nobody touch this, and I was like, how come nobody ain't touched that? Is they kind of question the fact that maybe they can't tell what in the world? Well, let me show what I'm talking about. Let me show you what I'm talking about right quick. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me see.
Deborah joins us now from Johannesburg. So, Deborah, Caster Semenya is looking to defend her world title and compete in upcoming races. How is this ruling going to impact her moving forward?
Well, Anne-Marie, it's pretty rough for Caster Semenya now because essentially this ruling is supposed to come into effect around next week, which means that she cannot run in races 400 meters, 800 meters or a mile unless she takes medication, which is potentially very harmful and which a lot of doctors say is against their ethics, because their job is to do no harm, but to take this medication, it could harm a very healthy person. So it's unlikely that she will take medication. She's resisted that in the past, which means she can't run in those races as it stands now. She's actually in Doha. She left for Doha last night, and she will continue trying to race. She has raced other tracks, 3,000 meters and 5,000 meters, so she might continue to do that as well. And also there will be some kind of challenge to this. The other option, which I don't think she'll take either, is that she could run as a man, which seems fairly ridiculous. She is a woman. She was born as a woman. She was raised as a woman. She identifies as a woman. And as many experts say, she wouldn't even qualify to the slowest man on the running track right now. So that's really not an option for her. So probably the most likely scenario will be some kind of legal challenge.
This is, Anne-Marie and I were talking about this yesterday because on the face of it, it's just really, really hard to understand what the rationale is behind this. As you pointed out, Deborah, she was born a woman. She is a woman. Asking her to take medication to somehow suppress who she is would strike me as doping.
It is completely unacceptable in the medical world. In fact, the World Medical Association has put out a statement urging doctors around the world not to implement the IAAF regulations, not to give athletes potentially harmful medication, because they say this is against medical ethics. Their job is to do no harm, but this will certainly do harm. It can cause diabetes, weight gain, obesity, all sorts of problems that normal healthy athletes would never experience while they are training for events such as these. So that's the first problem, and that, in fact, one expert said to us that this will turn a healthy person into a patient, and that is immoral and unethical on so many levels. On another level, her human rights are being trampled as well, because this entire issue has been in the public domain for 10 years. She's constantly had to verify her gender and battle these claims about testosterone. And a lot of experts say the science is very, very flimsy indeed. We spoke to one sports scientist here who said basically he doesn't think the evidence should even have been allowed, that the IAAF is basing its decision on something that is completely unsound and ultimately harmful to Caster Semenya. And so that is another problem that has joined this debate. Does testosterone give you an advantage? If you're Michael Phelps and you have size 14 feet that bend 15 degrees further back than most normal people, it turns your feet into virtual flippers. Or if you're Usain Bolt, you know, you have double twitch fast muscle fibers, which are in abundance, nothing like anything you and I would have. Does this give them an unfair advantage? What, in essence, is an unfair advantage?
So Vlad and I were wondering, because typically governing bodies like this don't take up issues unless there's some sort of complaint filed.
Right.
So who is complaining? Who was behind this? And I'm also wondering, I mean, how do we all know she has higher levels of testosterone? When did that conversation start where people were demanding personal health information from her?
Well, that's a very, very important point you raise, Anne-Marie, because this issue began 10 years ago when Caster Semenya was a teenager, thrust into the public eye. She comes from this rural part of South Africa, grew up very poor, and just had this incredible natural athletic ability. And she ran very fast, and based purely on the way she looked, questions started being raised. Was she a woman? Which was just ridiculous. And she had to sort of respond to these claims, and there was this secret gender testing that went on behind her back, the results, some of which were made public, others weren't. And this raised all sorts of questions. So right from the beginning, it was very unfair. I don't think any other athlete has been treated in such a way, publicly humiliated, the most intimate parts of her body discussed around the globe for over a decade, shamed constantly about just being who she is. So that's how it first arose. And then when they couldn't get far on the gender issue because other athletes were complaining, because Caster Semenya is fast, very fast, one of the fastest women in the world. And so they were saying, well, that's an unfair advantage somehow. And this was a way somehow to sort of take out the competition, I suppose. And in essence, that's where the complaints began and how it went up to the IAAF, and they ruled and chose to rule on this testosterone issue.
And finally, Deborah, how are her fellow countrymen and women feeling about this in South Africa?
South Africans are outraged, Vlad. Caster Semenya is an icon in this country. She's a heroine to many young people who are inspired by this woman who comes from this poor background and has risen to such great heights. And everyone talks about this elevated testosterone as being a natural advantage. Let me tell you, Caster Semenya trains twice a day. She has dedicated her life to running. She works incredibly hard. She's inspired people here, so they're furious on her behalf. And many people say this is also a north-south divide, that Caster Semenya is being punished because she is too fast and she does not conform to Western standards of what a female athlete should look like.
Deborah, it's really fascinating. I'm sure she's going to continue the fight, so we'll probably continue to talk to you about this. Thank you so much.
Hell no. Defiant Semenya wins, says she won't take drugs. You know I'm going to say that again. Hell no. Defiant Semenya wins, says she won't take drugs. This story was done in the AP. Looks like it was done. It looks like May the 3rd, 2019. And this is how it reads. Caster Semenya was defiant in every way at what very well could be her last 800-meter race. Her raised fist at the start, her unstoppable victory, and with her reply Friday to the big question of whether she will now submit to new testosterone regulations in track and field and take hormone-reducing medication. Hell no, the Olympian champion from South Africa said. Semenya responded to her defeat in a landmark court case against track and field governing body 2 days earlier with a resounding win in a place where she's done nothing but win the last 4 years over 2 laps of the track. She won the 800 meters at the opening Diamond League meeting on the season on Dona Qatar with a meet record of 1 minute, 54.98 seconds. It was her 4th fastest time ever. The only person ahead of her at any time during the race was the pacemaker. Semenya's nearest challenger, Olympic silver medalist Francine Niyonsaba, was nearly 3 seconds and about 20 meters behind her. Barely in the picture, Ajit Wilson of the United States was 3rd. It was Semenya's first 800-meter race this year and first since losing her case against the IAAF this week. Action speaks louder than words, Semenya told the BBC. When you are a great champion, you always deliver. But Semenya's 4-year dominance over 2 laps Friday win was her 30th straight, and the 800 continue a run that started in the late 2015 may now be at an end. Ended not by another competitor, but by new regulations set to come into effect Wednesday. They require the South African star and other female athletes with high levels of natural testosterone to medically lower them to be eligible to compete in events ranging from 400 meters to the mile. Semenya failed to overturn those rules in her appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Now, her career appears to be at a crossroad. Does she take medications to lower her testosterone? The medication will likely inhibit her athletic performance and could blunt her dominance. Or does she switch events and run in long-distance races not affected by the regulations? She was emphatic when she told reporters after Friday's race that she wouldn't take the medication. That's an illegal method, she said. But Semenya also didn't give a clear idea of what she would do next. She said she wouldn't move up to the 5,000 meters and she definitely wouldn't retire. God has decided my career. God will end my career. She said in the BBC interview, no man or any other human can stop me from running. How am I going to retire when I'm 28? I still feel young, energetic. I have still 10 years or more in athletics. It doesn't matter how I'm going to do it. What matters is I'm still be here. I'm never going anywhere. Semenya's comments may foreshadow an appeal against the CAS ruling, aimed first at allowing Semenya to defend her 800 title at the World Championship, also in Doha, in September and October while not taking the hormone-suppressing drugs. But if she keeps her promise not to lower her testosterone, there is a chance that Friday was the last time that Semenya runs in the 800, where she is a double Olympic and 3-time world champion and arguably the best female athlete to run the distance in 40 years. Her career, however, seems destined to be overshadowed by the testosterone debate, which has the potential for implications far beyond her own results. Semenya gave away little on the track to indicate it might be her last race at the distance. She raised her right fist when announcers introduced her before the race. She was presented with a bunch of flowers and tossed them to the crowd at the end. She then gave a thumbs up to fans, flashed a brief smile, and walked off the track.
All right, so we back, right? So that is a sister there named Semenya, right? And she's over in South Africa. She is born a female, right? And it was different. Those who might have seen that video, one of the last videos I did. Remember I did about Andre and I forgot the other, but they sisters now, right? They were brothers, right? So brothers who became sisters so they could run and get the accolations and become somebody in sports. And if you remember that story that I did, who was complaining that they couldn't beat them? Right? Right? Who was complaining? So we pretty much think about South Africa with apartheid. You know, when you think of South Africa, we know as, you know, people who are descended and have lineage that go to Africa and so forth, that Africa is considered to be the dark continent. But some patches of Africa seem to be having this, like, whites only, right? So you think of South Africa, the way they got it's like it's a white only. Even though they over there, matter of fact, I think today, right? Is it today they're having an election with, I think South Africa having an election today, right? Trying to get in Julius Salima and all that, right? So anyway, remember they trying to get them up out of there, right? And so here it is, this sister here who, again, is born a female. Now, she has a God's given gift. Now, she can run. Now, again, you know, when you look at here, again, there's a book, Harriet Washington's, again, a medical part-time, right? You know, history of us as ADOS in this land, BADOS, you know how I say it. And, you know, when it comes to this medical association, we are it. We is one that gave them the knowledge and the trial, the guinea pigs, you understand? Because, again, I even read it once upon a time in my doing my readings earlier, used to talk about that it was cheaper to get a nigger than to buy a damn cat. I'm going to say that again. It was cheaper to get a nigger than get a cat. And I'm like, really? Come on, man. Or is that just you talking about the life? Because, you know, you go kick a cat, throw a cat in the damn dryer, and Peter going to come knock on your door, right? But when it comes to us, it ain't, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, well. oh, well, right? So we became, you know, again, sister, I want to thank you for telling me about that. I think it's Cheryl Root that talked about gyno for ladies and obstetrician for babies. Now, when we talk about that gynecology, that's what that was again. It was, you remember, because again, when we talk about child rearing and birthing, it was the white woman who was dying. She the one couldn't go through all that pain. So they had to study the physiology and the body of the black woman. And using you as the guinea pig to figure out how they can keep the childbearing so that the white woman wouldn't die. You understand? So here it is now, in 2019, you have a woman who is, you know, basically in the 800, she's like a god running out there. And people complaining, man, this is not fair. She a man. Now, who the one brought that out there? Who the one said he got to be a man? It's kind of like Serena, right? You know, we know Serena went on, you know what I'm saying, went on in eating the other meat, right? We don't, right? So that's what she done did. Even though her daddy know what her daddy used to talk about, right? But, you know, that happens a lot of times. When you talk like that, it's going to be mothers that going to reject that, right? Again, like kind of the Bible says, you can't, Jesus couldn't, what did it say? He couldn't save those that knew him in his own household because they can't believe, right? So it's kind of, you know, don't believe when you tell them something, but let somebody else tell them they believe it. So anyway, so it had to be somebody like that was looking at them and say, it's got to be a goddamn man. It's got to be a man. So they bring it up testosterone. Well, wait a minute. If you naturally born a woman, what are you talking about testosterone? And when you're talking about I got to reduce it in order to do something that is natural to me to give other people a fair, wait, we black in America. What you talking about? What is that fair shit? What's that? We don't know what that means. We don't know what fair means. We know what God gives means, but we don't know what fair means. Right? So here it is, this woman, right? And this article is talking about that again, This woman done ran a 54.98 second 800-meter race. You might as well say she the boat of that. She like boat running, right? And so, you know, she ain't trying to get into all that. She done said, hell no. I ain't taking no damn test. For what? But let me say something for those who might remember. Who know who Sir Archie Bartman? Anybody know who that is? Sir Archie Bartman. Do anybody know that? I'm looking in the chat room right now. I'm going to get to some of the messages y'all said out there, those that I think that should be spoken loudly. Anybody know who Sir Archie Bartman is? Hottentot. The Hottentot. Remember that? So Archie Bartman was Hottentot, right? Remember they used to parade her? Matter of fact, that's where the circus began with, right? Parading her around because she had the badunkadunk, right? Right? She was so voluptuous that they were just like, what? A freak of nature, right? So, you know, it's kind of like when they look at Serena, say, you know, those people was sitting over there talking about, that's a man. You know, then you got some people who dedicating their whole channel trying to persuade you that, we can prove that this is. Now, again, I did see the thing when they did with Michelle Obama, and again, you know what I'm saying? They always do that. So it's any time that you get to such a, you know, dominance, especially a sister, they said, nah, that ain't right. Something you ain't right. But you go back, her medical from the time she's a female. So what is this thing here you trying to do, right? So it goes on, and it talks about how high levels of natural testosterone medically lowers them to be eligible. Now she got a high level of natural testosterone. They want to medically lower them to be eligible. Wait a minute, under some standard that you say, but that's God's gift that he gave to her. We all got them. Some of them are varying than others, and sometimes some people never figure out what yours is. So you who lack less, you kind of like you back in the day with Charlie Brown on Halloween special when he went there and go to the... See, we the ones getting the candy and you getting the rock in the bag. You getting the rock in the bag and you mad as shit. Let me stop that. You get mad, right? Because you got a rock in the bag. And so when you see somebody who got the candy in the bag, here you is, right? Got problems. So we're going to use our system to, you're going to have to take some of that out to make it fair. What? Did you tell Babe Ruth that? He might have been doing that, you know what I'm saying? He might have been doing what they call steroids. He might have been doing steroids back then. He wasn't doing no tests. Caitlyn Jenner might have been doing stuff. You wouldn't do no tests back then, right? He said, what's the name? Because his feet 14, they flippers. Well, I guess if a lot of brothers got into swimming, there'd be a lot of brothers 14, 15 shacking there. It'd be like a shark, wouldn't it? With them big 29s or 30s, whatever he got on his feet, right? So again, sometimes you just born with certain gifts. You got to accept it. If this was a person who did transgender, then maybe you could do that. But you can't say that was somebody natural. What kind of logic is that, right? Again, basically, somebody wants to get your DNA. Maybe that's what this is about. Maybe somebody wants to get the sample of your DNA because a lot of y'all done went out there and got them DNA tests. I'm trying to find out what part of Africa I'm from. Yeah, the part, but you can't tell the family your ass. Let me stop. I can't say that. Oh, man. You can't say where you coming from. Right? The family you coming from, right? But you can say what part. Anybody can do that. Send me your samples. I'm going to send you a test back. Then take it and say, I'm going to tell you where you from. Is that good? It'd be the same thing with it. But I can't tell you what family. You can't go to no family and be like, I'm family. You can't do none of that. Because how you know them people didn't migrate at that time going back to somewhere else? Anyway, but I'm just saying, want your DNA sample so we can study it. So what we can do, we're going to try to replicate it. We're going to try to replicate it. See, we can't get the God gift, but what we're going to do is we're going to scientifically, chemically it, and then induce it, and we're going to get the results. But it's always going to have the side effects. Bleeding nose, running, diarrhea, red eyes. You know, all that stuff they get when they never going to be what the Creator going to give you. You know it ain't going to be that way. So here it is. They want to do this emphatic that she take. They emphatic that she must take this medication. Why? If you know she is a natural woman, right? Now I know a lot of brothers, oh man, you know, I'm trying to figure out how did nobody touch this story. I sat back and I was like, nobody touched that story? Or did because maybe you looked at her and she kind of didn't have that. Again, like the woman said in the video, she said, well, she don't have the Western ideology of what a woman should look like. Well, what is that? What really is that? Right? Because I as a ADOS, natural in this, right? I know how my sisters have been in the mindset because that's why your hair long. Not some of you is natural, but some of you, you're going there and, you know what I'm saying, you putting the line, dye, fry, lay it down to the side, right? You're doing all that. And so you got that ideology from somewhere because you got to work, and then they say, nah, that natural ain't going to work. You got to do it this way. So that you have now become evolving yourself into the natural ideology of what Western woman should look like. Because again, remember I done told you once before, I read back in, it's the book called the ACAN, right? And the missionaries was talking about black people would be accepted when you become a black white person. You know, I have to say that again. You will become accepted when you become a black white person. The only way you're going to be accepted by them. And see, you know how that's so real and prevalent is because black people be having a problem with black people. Don't be too light and somebody too dark because you got a war right there. Right? And don't necessarily have to be, it's just this fact because that's the ideology of the Western mentality. Right? Lighter is better. Well, you know, Francis Cresswell said, right? The old saying, say if you're black, get back. If you're brown, stay around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. Right? Oh, kitty games and, you know, stuff we used to tell us. So, you know. So I'm just saying I brought that story for the simple fact that, man, I didn't see nobody touch it. I don't know, maybe some people might be thinking, man, she might be a man. Nah, that's a woman, man. That is a woman. And you know what I'm saying? And nobody said nothing. So I decided that since I'm going to come on today, I will go ahead and touch it. So let me go ahead, before I get to the next part here, let me, I should have another part up in here, right? Let me see this right quick, y'all. I'm going to read some of these comments people got in here, right, that might be want to be heard. So let me go ahead. For those who sitting on your hand, let me hold some. I'm on the corner. Brother in need. So let me just give you a little reminder. So I got some couple messages. Let me see what I want to say. What's up to my brother out there, Leonard the Yuta. What's good, fam? Glad to see you back around. I know it's been a little while, but again, I had to sit them 90 days out, right? They was killing me because prior to that, man, my numbers was going up. Again, it's not about the numbers. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about all that, but I'm just saying, when you put the work in and you seeing the progress, because you understand, again, I get to see all the things everybody else don't get to see behind the scenes. Right? I know what's really going on. And so when I seen that I was finally, making that crack in the egg, because there's certain things, that numbers I can see, and when they realized that, they hit that 90 days on me. Because again, like I said, I can't really tell you what it was about. They can't tell you either. Just wanted to do it, right? So anyway, good to see you back over here, brother. You still bringing that fire? I try to bring what's out there and relevant and prevalent, right? Let's see, I got Cheryl. This happened to a former co-worker of mine. She went through a rough time. So Sister Cheryl was saying, she knows somebody who went through that. They got my sister Sharon Washington says, thanks, sis. I've been waiting for Mr. Blow. Okay, that's y'all conversation. I ain't gonna get it now. Can change genes. Okay, can change your genes. Said, brother, they hate the black woman. We are well made by the Most High. This is them trying to eliminate us. I stay before the Most High. I know that He rules over them, so I rest in Him and obey Him. All's well, sister. They can't conquer the Most High. He sees all that they are doing, and He hates everything that they say. They aren't getting by with anything. Believe that. They want to give her drugs, but they wouldn't. This is Cheryl Rue says. She says they want to give her drugs, but they will allow that white trans high school kid to compete with the girls' track team. Fuck out of here. No, that's right? It's always different standards. But again, they said we use the race card. But when we start saying, when we can show and lay it out, it is what it is. We ain't got to make up nothing. Nobody got to lie. That's the whole point. We ain't got to lie. Right? But basically, what's coming down is going to be the fact that telling truth is just going to be against the law pretty soon. These people will demand every unfair advantage they can get and cry when they can't get it. They're not people. The Most High allows them to have power over us. It's almost over, though. Their destruction is on the way. All right, I'm going to put too much that. I don't say no names. I'm just going to read the comment, right? All right, so y'all got some, y'all saying what need to be said, and that's all good, sisters. Always good. All right, so this here, since we talking on the topic of what you just said, now, I've done seen some shows where, you got some people who don't really like us, right? They don't like us because we are the people in this nation that done, built us up. We done built this nation for a lot of people to come and benefit off of it, right? And, you can wear your welcome out, right? Somebody come on your house, when they first come over, you ain't saying, you come on and say, my house, fridge open to you, you take a shower and say, maybe didn't even clean the tub. I'm a little mad. I ain't boy, first night, right? I get away with it. I'm like, that nigga, dirty ass nigga, right? So, but then after a while, you be persistent with him, like, hold on, wait a minute now. I come in, you done change the furniture around. Wait a minute, wait. Slow your roll. Slow down, Speedy. You're moving too fast up in here, right? So they start talking in the sense like they know what it is, what we go through. Just because you reside here, let's say you first, second generation, and you've been residing here. Now again, this ain't no knock on nobody. I don't want nobody to get mad. It is what it is. Just because if your parents is just from somewhere else and you reside here, right? You have a first-hand experience of your lifetime as what it is to be in this nation. But you can't get in depth with the understanding because you have a short root. Basically, you just a seed. You're not even a root yet. Everything after you will be the root from the seed that you're planting. So when people who've been here talk and say things, I think it's incumbent of those who are not of that lineage, of that root, to sit back and observe and understand that we say these things not because the way you depict us, because if everybody, the way everybody depict us and trying to make it seem like, well, you guys are all stuck on this, y'all stuck on this racism, y'all stuck on slavery, but you ain't walked this, right? And so my brother Bernard Thomas had hit me up, even though I had already seen it, but he kept hitting me, hit me, whatever. And Bernard Thomas, when you do see it, what's good, brother, when you do get through, right? He kept it going. He kept it, because I was like, he just don't know. I'm coming around the corner. I just got to sit out. I didn't want it, you know what I'm saying? I had to sit out for you see how last the long video was? Because I knew the time was coming. I knew they were going to try to use something. So I said, let me sit out. You understand? And now I'm here. So anyway, let me show you this. But that what I just said, I'm gonna explain what I just said, but first you see this. Now check this out. It's a story that already been shown. I heard some people talk about it, but again, you know, Mr. Blood, I'm gonna say it from a whole different way. You understand? So check this out and be right back.
Inside Washington's Museum of the Bible, a single volume that is like no other. The so-called Slave Bible. Remarkable not for what's in it, but for what's not.
So about 90% of the Old Testament's been removed and about 50% of the New Testament's been removed. To put it another way, a normal King James Version has 1,189 chapters in it. The Slave Bible has only 232.
Missing are chapters and verses that might have encouraged uprisings. Book of Exodus, redacted. No story of Moses demanding Pharaoh, let my people go. Gone is Galatians, and the verse, there is neither bond nor free, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus. And no Jeremiah, woe unto him that useth his neighbor's service without wages.
What they've left in are verses such as Ephesians 6:5, which is the famous verse, slaves be obedient to your master.
Looking at this Bible, it's hard to tell that anything's been taken out of it.
That's correct. I mean, it looks like a normal book. For many enslaved Africans, this would have been the first time they were exposed to the Bible.
A Bible selectively edited to instill obedience, using religion to underpin the horror of slavery. When people encounter this exhibit, what lasting impression do you want them to leave with?
But we want to pass the message on that may this never happen again. The Bible itself is a whole book. It's not one that you get to carve up and use this piece or that piece.
The Slave Bible designed to repress rebellion, but it didn't work. Enslaved people in the Caribbean constantly fought against slavery until emancipation.
I think it's very relevant to understand our history, not just American history, but our African American history, our roots and how we got to this point.
A dark chapter in the history of the good book. Jeff Bennett, NBC News, Washington.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel.
Slave Bible on display at Museum of the Bible. Editions remove chapters to uphold slavery. You know I'm going to say that again. Slave Bible on display at Museum of the Bible. Edition removes chapters to uphold slavery. Now, this story was done back on April 24th, 2019, sent to me by my brother Bernard. Okay? And this is how it reads. By Jeannie Law, Christian Post reporter, Friday, April 26, 2019. This is how it reads. Although the Bible is filled with scriptures of freedom, and Jesus preached in Luke 4:8 that he came to set the captives free, the Holy Book was once altered to convey the exact opposite message as a way to enforce slavery. The controversial Slave Bible, published in 1807 in London, is currently on display at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. And while it looks like any other Bible on the outside, its pages are meant to push an inhumane agenda by selectively removing almost 90% of the Old Testament and 50% of the New Testament, as described by Museum of the Bible curator Anthony Schmidt. A normal King James Version has 1,189 chapters in it. The Slave Bible has only 282, Schmidt told NBC News. The distorted translation is missing the Old Testament chapter of Exodus, which features the famous Moses account when he demands Pharaoh to set the Israelites free from captivity in Egypt, and God makes a way for them to leave. The book of Jeremiah was also removed because of verses such as, woe to him who builds his palace by unrighteousness. his upper rooms by injustice, making his own people work for nothing, not paying them their labor. Jeremiah 22:13. The slave version likewise discards the New Testament book of Galatians, where the Apostle Paul specifically destroys the idea that some people are greater than others. There's neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Galatians 3:28. What can be found in the book are passages such as Ephesians 6:5, which reads, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ." The Gospel Coalition says practices like slavery, polygamy, and divorce were common in antiquity, but clarifies that biblical instructions, which allows for them in certain contexts, isn't necessarily biblical approval. As most Christians would agree, the Bible is to be interpreted in the full counsel of scriptures and not just as some moments of history. Museum president and CEO Ken McKenzie said he's hoping the Slave Bible exhibit will discourage something like this from ever happening again. The Bible itself is a whole book. It's not one that you get to carve up and you get to use this piece or that piece, McKenzie told NBC. The Slave Bible was formerly named parts of the Holy Bible selected for the use of Negro slaves in the British West Indies Islands. Schmidt revealed that they believe it was likely produced by a missionary organization known as the Society for the Conversion of the Negro Slaves. The missionaries, though many were abolitionists, were reportedly under the impression that the revised scriptures would improve the lives of enslaved Africans both materially and spiritually. This book, Schmidt explains, is aimed at justifying and reinforcing the slave system, but at the same time it was used to help teach Africans how to read, for example, and to somehow educate them in the classroom. The exhibition was opened November 2018 and will be on display until September 2019 at the Museum of the Bible. Visitors are encouraged to join the ongoing conversation about the Slave Bible in the exhibition response area. All right. So, see the Slave Bible on display at the Museum of the Bible. Editions remove chapters to be uphold slavery, right? So as I was talking before I went ahead and played that is again, you have a lot of people who, again, there's nothing wrong with edifying and teaching. If you got some knowledge about some things and that's what you do on your channel, that's fine. But don't look at other people who you may have an affinity as we are collectively, let's say, when we say we're Africans or when we say we black, there's a collective aspect to that. But then there is something that differentiates us when it comes to history. And see, what some people try to do is commingle everything and try to make it all one. And then, like, when you talk about the people who talk about the ADOS and trying to get reparations and so forth, and they say, well, we're being divisive because we're trying to single them out. But you can't ask for something that you're not a part of. Yes, the slave trade, the Ma'afa took place. But again, I can't go to your job. If I work at McDonald's, I can't go to your job, Burger King, and ask them to give me a check. I'm like, you don't work here. You don't work for me. You understand? And so the reason why I'm saying that is because these same people have problems with our people who are still kind of caught up in such a way that they say they're too religious or they're too Bible-y. Well, this here ought to give you some indication of they sit down and tell you it's 212 years later, 212 years later that they're going to come out and tell us that there was a Bible specifically created
for these people here so that they can have a certain mindset that is still, you see, prevalent today. Do I need to say that again? That Bible they said was about 1807, the one that they got there. Today being 2019 is about 212 years later. A Bible that was specified, fixed, to have a certain mindset, to have a certain obedience. And the Bible, which says has 1,189 chapters, only had 282, right? I ain't gonna say not chapters, pages. We know there ain't no 200, there ain't no 1,189 chapters in the Bible. We know that, right? Or maybe it is. Maybe I'm thinking books, right? Okay, somebody could correct me, right? All right. So anyway, so what I'm saying is, if you don't have the entirety, right, and somebody teaching you with a slanted version for a purpose, for a design of their own, how do you blame the people who took it under the guise, because they are spiritual people who come from, revelations of giving honor and glory to the Creator, had rituals and all that, and then you give them this as a form of something they had lost because they lost their culture and identity, and then you replaced it and gave them this, and based on the conditions that they were in, under the oppression they are under, God had to be real to us. Let me say that again. God had to be real to us because of what we were going through. Motherfucking hanging you, castrating you, raping you, male and female, working you from sun up to sundown, right? And all the other atrocities that we are unbeknownst to have not been spoken or known yet. God had to be real to us, because what else kept you going other than trying to live? So here's somebody going to say, hey, read this. Hey, believe in this. This is the only thing they're giving you. And you're going to take that wholeheartedly because you see something in it as a way to give you refuge. Right? And here's people who don't come from that trying to say why we the way we are. See? When you are not at home, see, it's like going back in the day. Hold on one second. Let's say this boy John. Hold on one second, y'all. Okay, let's say back in the day, when, let's say, you've been around from the 80s on up, and we was meeting people who were coming from other countries. Like, say you worked somewhere and you met somebody, maybe they came from, let's say, the Philippines, maybe they come from Jamaica, maybe they come from the continent. You know what they always tell us? Back in my country, I have a big house with a mansion and maid. Right? And here we is, the people of this nation, you talking to us, telling us that, and then and you think you telling us, and we looking at you like, what the fuck are you doing here then? What are you doing here? Huh? Why are you telling me something like that? Why are you telling me, why are you trying to make me believe that? Huh? See, because you can disassociate yourself, right? You could tell me about some place that at those times nobody ain't traveling. You know what I'm saying? There's only a few of the people that have jobs and money. You might be able to do a little bit of something like that. But majority of the people, if they, the traveling south, to and fro back, and that kind of stuff like that. But country-wise, no. So you had to take their word. But in the back of your mind, you was like, lying? I got nothing nigga lying. Right? Because I don't know damn well, because you thinking in your mind, if I got what you just said, ain't no way I'll be here. Ain't no way I would be here. So he knew you was telling a lie. So you can always play that game and try to make it seem like, we ain't like how y'all is here. But that's why you here. Because if you didn't have here to come, you would be there. And then if I came to see you, you'd be like how we is here. Now I need to say that again? Do I need to say that again? If you didn't have here to come, to be up under here to get the benefits of what we done gave under the conditions we've been in, And then talking this slide stuff that you talking about how we all messed up and all this Bible, this and that. I don't understand how y'all brainwashing all this. If you couldn't come here, if I went there and visit you the way you here out with us, I'll be saying the same thing to you. I don't understand how y'all the way y'all is. You understand? But see, you caught up in the in-between game. You so brand new here, you ain't got no roots. And the roots that you claiming, you can't go back and tell them nothing because they're going to look at you like you a foreigner. Right? So anyway, so let's look at this story here. So they talk about this Bible, and it was filled with script. They say, well, the Bible is filled with scriptures of freedom, and Jesus preached. When talking about Luke 4:8, that he claimed that set the captives free. The Holy Book was once altered to convey the exact opposite message as a way to enforce slavery. So here they was, created a Bible that they took out certain aspects because they didn't want that infused in the minds of those who they were impressing. Right? They didn't want you to have any inkling of hope. So everything that they took out had a purpose to keep you in mind of being enslaved. And guess what is the biggest organization black Americans had? The church. The church is where everything everything that was going on, where we congregating and yet, if they said they did that for that particular vice to put on them, if you understand the history of Europe and what transport happened with how they got out of the Catholicism, that was one of the claims they was saying back then with them. They said they was in there rewriting. And matter of fact, when you read that history, which I have, when you read that history, you're going to see there's been a lot of altering. They was getting people in there. That's why you always hear me say poetically prose. They was getting people in there to poetically prose the scriptures because there is no original scriptures. So we don't know how much has been altered. If you can alter it when you gave it then, you think they didn't alter it no other times? Now, this don't mean that the Creator, Most High, is not what it would say. Again, we know truth when we hear it. You understand what I'm saying? They take their falsities and try to input certain aspects, but then you know that truth that hits you when you read it. I know that he can't talk like that. He ain't built like that. He ain't got that. He ain't spiritually like that. That's the part we know he ain't did. But there's other parts in there a little contradicting, like jealous. God, he was jealous. What? How does jealousy and God go hand? How do you match jealousy with God? Jealous to who? When you see, that's somebody who insecure. God, the Creator, the Most High, insecure to who? You understand? But that's how you know that's somebody altering. Let us go down there and stop them. What? Who? What? Who? Creator needs some help? He needs some help. He got legions, but if I got to go down there, everybody sit down. Right. So they said this was published in 1807 in London. Now again, when they say London, understand 13 colonies, right? When they talked about the Hudson Bay Company, right? And the 13 colonies was those that came out of London. So you know we got that version, right? So it says pages was meant to push it inhumane. Like dogs. I mean, inhumane. Well, shit, ain't too much change from then to now. You might have put some more pages in the book, but then you're still doing that same thing when you come to public education. You're still doing the same thing, right? Doing the same thing. So it says that selectively removing almost 90% of the Old Testament, 50% of the New Testament. So 10% of the Old and 50% is they only got a 60% of that book. Right? They only gave you 60% at that time. How much did they strengthen and rewrote since then? See? The thing is, by us being black Americans in here, you know what we don't have? And our family, due to all this, have to keep moving and being separated. We don't have nothing that's been passed down that goes all the way back to this day right now. See, I remember one time somebody had a 1920 Bible,
right? And somebody they were trying to find out. Everybody was trying to find out to get the Bible going back and back. It couldn't. Nobody. And if they do got it, they ain't gonna let you see it. You understand? So we know this is true. Say a normal King James Version has about 1,189 chapters. The Slave Bible only had 282. Right? 202 Bible, 282 chapters. That's a lot of Bible missing. And you wondering why black people in America has the mindset that they got. Somebody already programmed them in the deception. It's been going for so long, a generation. People talking, oh, why it's so hard for us to unify? Why can't we come together? Because you've been programmed more than just that Bible. You've been programming way more stuff than just that. So don't think it's just that book. Don't think it's just that book. Right? So it said it would distort translations, like you talk about Exodus. They didn't want to take about Exodus because they had Moses' account when he was demanding the Pharaoh to set the Israelites free. And that's Israelites, right? The Israelites. They want that word in your head, Israelites, because you would right away, that's us. This must be Egypt. They didn't want that in your head. I got a question. How did they say that Harriet Tubman said she was Moses if they didn't have Moses in the book? Oh, never mind. I shouldn't even. Huh? Did I say that again? How did they say Harriet Tubman said that she was Moses? They used to call her Moses if they didn't have Moses in the chapters because she. All right, let me stop here now. See, I'm gonna be out of here, right? They're gonna get me out of here again, right? So, all right. So it says they didn't want them because they didn't want God made a way for them to leave, right? Now, at the end of the show today, remember what I just said right here, that God had made a way for them to leave. That's what they saying, right? But I'm gonna show y'all something that they didn't talk about, right? We about two away from that, right? So it said in Galatians, where Paul specifies destroy the ideals that some people were greater than the other, that neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male or female, for all of you are one in Christ Jesus. That's what Galatians 3:26 says, right? But they ain't want that in your head. Because, see, I had to be superior over you. You know what I'm saying? I got to be over you. There's no equality with it. But see, when you talk Castor Semenya, you got to take your testosterone down. It's unfair, right? So I have to always, when I'm playing the game, I'm the little kid that always, we're going to play it, but when you tag me, I call timeout every time. I got to change the rule. No, you got to tie your both shoes before you, right? All that nonsense, right? You can't play the game fair because you can't win if you don't play. You have to always slam. You have to always cheat. You have to always, and then you get mad because we saying that. We the one living it though. We living that. You ain't living that. We living with under the nonsense that you be doing. We live that, right? So it says in Ephesians 6:5 says, slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear and sincerity of heart, just as you would obey God. So we see, now you understand why when they say black people, when white people around, black people have this mindset that like God or Jesus is there. Look what it just told you. It just told you that you as the slave was to fear the white man with sincerity of your heart, just like if you were seeing Jesus Christ. How long have you been doing that for? We on 400 years. How long was that in our damn system? How long has that been in our spirit, in our minds? And now that we starting to crack it and saying some other stuff, everybody like, wait a minute, these niggas getting out of pocket. See? Yeah, it's right there. Oh, almost knocked us out. Hold on, y'all. Oh, shit, almost knocked us out. Well, okay, I don't want to do that. All right. So, goes on, it says that in full counsel of scriptures and not just some moments of the, see, you know, you want to take bits and pieces and try to make it fit for you, for the design. And then when they say we always talk about racism and that we make this up, and yet
Somehow everything is starting to fall out. And all the stuff that we did, it keep falling out, right? So here's the CEO, Ken McKenzie. He said he's hoping that this slave Bible exhibit will discourage something like this from ever happening again. See, that sounds good, right? That's what you're supposed to say, right? It's kind of like, we're never again, right? Everything is never again except for when we talking about what we talking about. It's possible, you know what I'm saying? Possible. Never to happen again. It's going to continue. As long as you feel like you threatened or you feel like you ain't in power to control, you got to always manipulate. That is who you are. You know this, man. So they said the parts, this slave Bible was formerly named Parts of the Holy Bible Selected for the Use of Negro Slaves in the British West Indies Island. That's what it was named. And what's funny is, this Bible was produced by missionaries. The missionaries, the organization known as the Society for the Conversion of the Negro Slave. They had, again, like that, the committee that studied to see whether you're dying, and they had organization surveillance. Here's the committee that was doing the Bible. So they always got these institutions in place to do the work. While you sleep, they working. When you finally figured out, they done went on to about 3, 4, 5 other things. You understand? So now it goes on and says the missionaries, those they were abolitionists. Now check this part out. Check this out. Right? Yes, they were abolitionists, right? They were abolitionists. But check this out. The abolitionists is the ones they keep telling us was the one who was fighting for us. Them was the ones that was, you know what I'm saying, slavery is wrong. But this is what that article said. The missionaries, though they were abolitionists, were reportedly under the impression that the revised scriptures would improve the lives of the enslaved Africans both materially and spiritually. How is that possible when they just said that the whole thing was designed to keep you in a slave mentality? So that just goes to tell you that when they try to tell you that somebody was for you, no, they might have said in the different variations of doing it, but they had the same agenda. You know, it's like the Democrat and the Republican. Yeah, the Democrats, they're for you, and yet all the time you've been for them, what have you gotten? What have you gained? What do you get from them? At least the other motherfucker, he true to the game. This other motherfucker, he play with you. He'll go get other people not to even deal with you. He'll go bring everybody from somewhere else and put them in and be like, we still ain't gonna deal with you. Just like, we're gonna talk about that, this mother coming out running, he snuck in. And then I seen an article where he talking about some, 40-something% of black women gonna support him. Y'all better not. Better not. Better not. So anyway, that's what the slave Bible, and that's what those people, again, you didn't touch it and say it the way it should have been said. And again, that's what we've been under. An altered version of a true specified and designed for the design of somebody else. And then you sit here talking about why black people the way they is. If you did that, what else we going to look under the cover and find? What else I'm going to look under the bed and find? Always going to be something up under there, right? So anyway. People leaving can't take that. It's all good. They ain't gonna need no partner. All right, so let me go ahead and get down to the nitty gritty. All right, let's see. Do I want to do that? Yeah, let me go and do this. Let me go and do this. I just talked him up. I might as well go and do it, right? Yeah, I get ready to get some eating in there. Okay, so check this out, y'all. I talked about this cat already once before, but check this out.
Only thing that stands in our way is our broken political system that's deliberately being undermined by our president to continue to abuse the power of the office. Donald Trump is the only president who's decided not to represent the whole country. The president has his base We need a president who works for all Americans.
As you can see, Joe Biden's in, tearing into President Trump at that rally in Pittsburgh. Biden making his appeal to middle-class voters and unions. Other candidates trying to stand out from the crowded Democratic field, of which there are many. Here's one of them, 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. Nice to see you in person.
It's great to see you as well.
Officially meeting for the first time. Biden did not really go after you or any of his Democratic challengers. What do you think of that?
Well, Joe Biden has an advantage of having sky-high name recognition. He's been in the public space for a long time. And so he's focused on Donald Trump. And I agree with the fact that we have to solve the problems that got Donald Trump elected in 2016. And that's what Democrats should be focused on.
I wonder if you were insulted by the sleight of hand there, or the sleight of lack of acknowledgement in Pittsburgh, you and the others.
Not at all. I mean, he was a sitting vice president for 8 years. He's leading in the polls. If I were him, I would have done the exact same thing.
Okay, interesting. You want to do universal basic income, and to prove it, you want to give people in Iowa $1,000 a day.
Oh, it's $1,000 a month. I should
sorry,
I couldn't afford $1,000
$12,000 a year, I should say. I correct myself. Well, are you pandering to the folks in Iowa to try and get that attention?
Well, we've already done this in New Hampshire, and what's fun about this is that when people actually get $1,000 a month, you see they do very positive, productive things. The family in New Hampshire is paying their daughter's college tuition bill. The same thing's going to happen in Iowa. So there are all of these abstract fears about people getting $1,000 a month, when in real life, if Americans got $1,000
what do you
a
think
month,
that does? What changes for people if you do that?
Well,
because some would see it as just a simple handout, as you know.
You know, what's phenomenal is there's a lot of data on this. And what happens is that people's mental health improves, stress goes down, relationships improve, their physical health even improves over time, their trust in community members and their society goes up. So there are a lot of phenomenal effects, and we're already seeing this even on a very, very small scale with the family in New Hampshire that have been doing this for since January 1.
I'd be interested to see how people in Iowa respond to that, as you mentioned New Hampshire there. How do you beat this administration when you're growing at 3.2%? That was the GDP number for the first quarter this year.
Well, GDP is like a highly flawed indicator of how we're doing. I mean, GDP is at a record high. Meanwhile, our life expectancy has declined for 3 straight years because of an increase in drug overdoses and suicides. So if you ask the average American which you care more about, your neighbor's life expectancy or this phantom GDP number, and Donald Trump made the same case when he was running for office.
I don't know if you can make the case that it's phantom. I mean, it moves markets quite literally. Another question here. You support the Green New Deal, correct? You support Medicare for all. There's a hearing on that today in the House we're waiting for. You support a carbon tax. You support free or drastically reduced tuition at community colleges. Who would you, and we got a big list of all the candidates so far, who do you believe is the most liberal or the most progressive in this field today?
It's a fun question. I mean, it's a big field. You know, it's like, for me, the liberal and conservative, it's not left, it's not right, it's forward. We have to start solving the problems of the American people. And we have to know that one of the main things, or several of the main things that are driving Americans to record levels of stress are our sky-high education costs and our sky-high healthcare costs. It's a leading cause of bankruptcy. So we have to come together, and the congressperson who was just talking about it, he said correctly that the costs in our healthcare system are out of control and we need to bring them down.
I didn't get a name from you, by the way, on that question.
Oh, you noticed that, huh?
Andrew Yang, it's $1,000 a month, okay?
It is that.
Thank you very much for your time. We'll see where it goes. Medicare for All hearing coming up in minutes. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Phil.
All right.
46% of whites worry becoming a majority-minority nation will weaken Americans' culture. Survey says. You know I'm going to say that again. 46% of whites worry becoming a majority-minority nation will weaken Americans' culture. Survey says. Story was done back in March 21st, coming from the USA Today. And this is how it reads. Almost half of white Americans say the United States becoming a majority non-white nation would weaken Americans' customs and values. A new Pew Research Center survey says. The United States Census Bureau predicts that before 2050, the majority of the United States will be made up of minority populations. According to Pew Research, 46% of white people fear that would weaken United States culture. Quarter of Hispanics and 18% of black people have similar fears. 40% of blacks and 46% of Hispanics say the shift would strengthen those customs and values. The findings speak for itself. It suggests concerns broadly held by whites about a majority-minority country, says Rich Morin, a senior editor at Pew Research Center. The survey of 2,524 U.S. adults conducted in December focused on Americans' view of the future of the country and asked about political, economic, and societal changes that could come by 2050. Pew did not define American customs and values or American culture for the survey. Will a majority-minority country be good? America is divided. More than half of Americans say they are at least somewhat optimistic for the future of the United States. But when they ask about specific issues, national debt, affordable health care, environmental degradation, political division, a grimmer picture emerges. Americans' opinions are divided when asked broadly how a majority-minority population would affect the United States of America. Roughly 40% of Americans say the shift to a majority non-white country wouldn't be good or bad, and more than one-third said it would be good. Roughly half of Americans say a majority non-white population would lead to more racial and ethnic conflicts, according to the survey. White Americans make up more than half of the country's population, according to the Census Bureau. The Bureau predicts the year 2044 will be when minorities make up the majority. In 2060, minorities will be 56% of the United States population, the Census Bureau predicts. A quarter of white Americans say having a majority-minority country would be good. It's due more than half of blacks and Hispanics, 53% and 55% respectively. 53% of white Americans say it would lead to more conflict between racial and ethnic groups, compared with 43% of non-whites who said the same. Rise of anti-immigrant sentiments. Anti-immigration and nationalistic actions and rhetoric have been on the rise in the United States of America and Europe in recent years, and debates over immigration persist in the news. This week, the Pentagon listed what projects might be delayed to pay for the President Donald Trump's border wall. Trump and Republicans say the wall is necessary to combat what the president calls a humanitarian crisis. At the border, Democrats call his declaration of a national emergency a political stunt. Man with extremist anti-immigration views is accused of firing on 2 mosques last week in New Zealand, killing 50 people and wounding dozens. In the United States last year, a gunman killed 11 worshippers at a Pittsburgh synagogue on the Sabbath. The suspect has expressed anti-Semitic, anti-immigration sentiments. Anti-immigrant views are nothing new in the United States of America, even as historical circumstances changes and often look similar across periods, says Jack DeWard, a sociologist professor at the University of Minnesota who studied demography and migration. What seems to be the difference is there's sort of a politics of fear and resentment. DeWard says the issue of migration has become so much more politicized, hijacked, and divorced from facts and reason than it ever has in the past. Fear ties to becoming a majority-minority country can partially be explained by demographic segregation and inequality in society. DeWard says when people don't meaningfully interact with others in their daily lives, they'll more easily have prejudice and fears, he said. DeWard says there's an increasing lack of empathy in society, the refusal to put yourself in someone else's shoes. People are just unwilling to do this, he says. All right, so there's a report there talking about 46%, about the white folks, right? White folks worrying about minorities in majority, right? Well, the first part was the video was showing about the Andrew Yang, and again about the universal. Remember, I talked about that going back a little bit. Remember, those who might have seen the video, talk about that again. Trying to get everybody $1,000 due to the simple fact that technology is pretty much making a lot of, people jobs, right? People that would be normally do it become obsolete. So they ain't got no job for it. So, this universal pay, some people think that's a good idea. But see, at the beginning of that, you had Joe Biden
you know, he kind of snuck in, right? Joe Biden, based on all the stuff that took place, right? You know, he already had Anita Hill going back, right? Some of the stuff he had said then. Plus, remember, if you've seen the video I played where he talked about about the raping my mother, and you know, remember that whole, right? Okay, and then after that, then talking about Creepy Joe and people out there right? So, right? And then I seen an article the other day somebody put out there that was showing that, you know, they're saying black women are the one that's gonna really support him. Because again, you need go all hands on deck to if y'all thinking about beating that cat, y'all gonna need all our hands on deck. Because see how he won last time, according to it, again, you want to go with if they fixed the election and so forth. But again, remember when I did the video going back, I already told you how that went down. It's there. It's still there. I don't say nothing. It's still there. But anyway, you need those poor white women, right? That's the only way you're going to win. So it ain't just getting black women. You're going to need all of us, just like you need what Obama needed. But you're going to need to get some of them that you can't get. And that's how she couldn't win, because she couldn't pull them, right? So you see, this cat here, Andrew Yang, is saying, look, I know niggas is out there talking about some damn reparations. And I know y'all ain't down for that. But let's say maybe they'll go where we give everybody money. We give everybody $1,000. How about that? You ain't got no job any damn well. $1,000 can help you, right? But you know there's some strings attached to that. It ain't going to be just $1,000 and, you know what I'm saying, you get to, you know, blow it off or pay bill, whatever it might be. Ain't gonna be, you know, gonna be some stipulations to that. Just like they doing with those people who getting, you know, some kind of assistance, right? Basically, now you got to work some part-time to get it, right? They ain't just giving it to you no more. So the reason I'm connecting this part, which is white worrying about minorities and majority, because, see, that's what he's really propagating to. He's trying to get to them because he has a constituents that's following him, according to the stats, is he got the poor whites who are looking at him like they looking at that $1,000, right? Because a lot of them is upset because they didn't get the fulfillment of the promise. They were talking about giving jobs, right? And so, you know, we, on the other hand, those who are ADOS, BADOS, you know, right? We talking about something else. We on the 400 years, and we talking about, look, you know, the check is due, right? You know, wrote too many bounce checks. It was time, insufficient funds, time to pay up. So everybody trying to not talk about that no more, right? You kind of like everybody going around that. Huh? Blue Kamala Harris out the way, Cory Booker. You see, I did the video, right? When I talked about, he talking about baby bonds. You're gonna get every new baby now, you're gonna give them $50,000, $35,000. But what about the parents until you get to that age? They all tore up. How they gonna change the dynamic in the economic? Crazy, boy, I'll tell you, mama be saying some crazy stuff out here, right? So you need a Mr. Blow Your Mind out here that just gonna say it like a T.I. is. Right? So, get to this thing here. So, with that being said is, they got to cater to that. Because again, make them angry. That's what everybody's saying. Well, so you're going to make them angry. Remember I did that video with the white woman. You keep blaming us and we're going to get angry. We didn't have nothing to do with it. Well, how about this? Put it on the record. Since white folks done disappeared that had something to do with the condition that black Americans are in, then that means everybody else who came here had to come from somewhere else, migrated in, right? So you benefited off of sweat, blood, and tears, and the equity that was put in by my ancestors. Why don't you feel like you entitled to give something, huh? Why you feel like you ain't entitled? You got a better life than you would ever had eating the potatoes and them rocks and that dirt, huh? You came over here, you live better than we do. And you get to be in a status over us too. So you got you know what I'm saying? You got everything good out the deal. So why don't they just create, and I'm going to put it on a record, why don't they just create a new tax? You know, you got FICA, right? State, federal. What about an ADOS tax? Why don't they just say, since ain't nobody want to go for it to just say, why don't you just create an ADOS tax? That means everything everybody getting paychecks and what they buying, they're going to take some of the money out for ADOS and you put that in the fund and ADOS will get funneled. And when they when you part of that, they funnel that to you. Huh? Pay that residuals. Just keep on paying the residual checks. That way ain't no debate about it because it has something to do with government in the first place. But you go, see, you hide behind government because government is just an institution, the building, it's not people. Well, since we've been here, we know who's been running this, right? And those other people done imaginary move and gone, so you got to pick up the tab. You're benefiting, you got goods, right? So let's get into this thing they saying. So they think by them dropping by 2044 to a, see, they still had, see, look at the psychosis here. You're the majority in population, and when you fall to a minority or a minority, you still got to say minority, majority. Did y'all see that? He still got to say majority. He can't just be, I'm minority, I'm little, I'm nothing. Something in here, you can't see me, something in there, right? I got to always be there. Hey, what is this minority, majority? Oh, minority small in population, but we the majority owners and runners of this country. See? Right? Still got to be that. And so you saying based on the prediction of the 2050 census, that 46% of white people fear that this would weaken the culture. What culture? What culture is the United States really? If it ain't black culture? Oh, I get it. Because we're property, we never have ownership, and anything that we ever created is never been. It's kind of like you create and they get the residuals, they get the benefits of it. So the culture is you create it, and I think that's what made a lot of people mad. Somebody said this to me the other day. Maybe a lot of people mad is because black people ain't creating nothing no more, right? You done watered us down and got us so weak now. Not all of us. Some but all. That motherfuckers ain't creating nothing. That your people, again, they still remixing, reheating the same old stuff like they ain't got no new idea. Came back with another All in the Family. Y'all see that shit? Oh, damn, I ain't supposed to say that. Damn. Y'all seen that, right? They came back with a new All in the Family, came in there with a thing. Woody Harrelson was going to play Archie Bunker, 2-hour series that night, right? Everything they do, they keep rehashing. Can't make nothing new. And then looking at us like give you something new. No, the only thing we knew was new black white people. That's what done happened here, right? You got new black white people. So ain't no culture. Nothing that you did specifically. Nothing. They ain't moving on. So the survey said about 2,524 people they had did this survey in. And then they're going to make the stipulation out of 2,500 people. You got 230 million people in here, and we're going to take 2,500 people and try to make the assessment for the whole mindset of whatever, man. Whatever, right? Whatever. So, say U.S. and Europe in recent years in debate over immigration persisted. Well, we know what's happened up in Europe. Because that is the back door for those in Africa. Again, how they getting what they getting. The only back door they got is to go use the dual citizenship and go to Europe. So it's a bait and switch. So when you go over here, we're going to, it's kind of like the Underground Railroad. We're going to go over there. While y'all come over here, we're going to go over there. And the ones that can't get out, them the ones who being affected by it. As a matter of fact, I was reading about a couple of weeks ago, they were talking about how what they call what they call them, like kind of alt-right, the rights, the leftists, something like that, right? They mounting up over there. They galvanizing up in Europe, right? Because they mad because they done took over. They done took all over the Europe, so they mad, right? So goes on and says that they believe the wall is necessary to put a combat. I don't know how that's supposed to work when the way this country allows so many people to come in here. So I don't understand what the walls are slow down. Again, it can still come through the front door just for the simple fact that they coming on some kind of sanctuary and all this other stuff. So anyway, so they call it a humanitarian crisis. The Democrats call this a declaration of national emergency, a political stunt. You know why they doing it? See, as long as they can keep filtering in other people here, they ain't got to deal with us. Right? As long as you got something to replace it, then you have to really deal with it. Say to them, we want some tangibles. We want this and this and that. We ain't going to just give you the vote. They talking about we ain't trying to give them. bring them in, and then let them vote, right? Undermining you, right? So it says the issue of migration has become so much of a politicized hijacking divorce from the facts and reason that it has ever had in its past. Because, again, people using it for, again, you say politicized, right? This is how they can get this cush job, get these people to get them in, because, again, dealing with us, we're going to say our hand is out now. Our hand used to not be out. Now our hand is out. So you don't want the hand out. You want us to just sit there and say, okay, it's okay. You probably next time. Yeah, next time. Old Wimpy on Popeye used to be, I'll pay you on Tuesday. Every time I see him, I'll pay you on Tuesday. Like, damn, nigga, didn't Tuesday come already? No, I'll pay you on Tuesday. Anyway. So the fear tied to becoming a minority country can partially be explained by demographic segregation and inequalities in society. Man, segregation had nothing to do with you becoming a minority. You was doing it because you didn't want to be by, because again, the way y'all made the red line and the property come low because black people live in there. Inequality in society has always gone way back to the again 400 years. It's always been that. This ain't nothing new. And the lack of empathy in society. Of course, everybody can't, again, at the end it said, put yourself in the shoes. They can't. No, because it's always get over it. Get over it. Yeah, you're going to have to get over it one of these days. No, matter of fact, you ain't got to get over it. You're going to have to face it. Not here. Whatever the inevitable is, wherever you think that is, and whoever you think that might be, we ain't talking about us. We know what we talking about. We talking about them. When they have to deal with that, when you got to face the inevitable, you try to pull that card. See what happens. We already know. Pull the card. Go ahead, try it. Go ahead, try it. We're going to see what happens. So, that's just what that is, right? So, let me go ahead. I'm already at the 2-hour and 30-minute mark. My sister Sharon Washington and my sister Cheryl Ruth in there going back and forth. I like what y'all in there talking about. I'm reading what y'all doing. I want to put everything in the air, though. It's all good. And so I'm going to finish. And whoever just left, you Missy, this is the best part of the show. Right here. Because I'm going to give you something nobody want to tell you. Say, well, let me do this. I got to do that because that's sister. I have to do this. I don't know if y'all might have seen this or not. I got to do this. I got one more before I go to the end part. I got one more. Because I believe the sister spirit is speaking from the other side, right? Because the way it went out and the way they try to pull it, you know, sometimes some people got such a strong presence and spirit, you know what I'm saying? You know, they just can't lay down with ease due to the fact what transpired. So, let me play this right quick. This is Sharp. Get back, and then let's do this. Hold on. Let me do this first. Just in case somebody's sitting in their hand and not doing what they're supposed to do. So let me hold something right quick. No, I won't do that. Come on, we're just going to play it. Let's go.
Protests gathered at the Texas State Capitol following newly revealed video showing the controversial traffic stop of Sandra Bland. The 39-second cell phone footage recorded by Bland shows the moments before her arrest in 2015. She was found dead 3 days later, hanging in her jail cell. Her family is calling for a new investigation. Maria Villarreal is in Dallas. Maria, good morning.
Well, good morning. Sandra Bland's family says until recently they had never seen this cell phone video. Now, her arrest actually added fuel to an already heated conversation about how minorities are treated by police. Right now, you're going to get a first-hand look of how this arrest went down from Sandra Bland's eyes.
Well, you can step on out now.
I don't have to step out of my car.
Step out of the car.
As Texas Trooper Brian Encenia demanded Sandra Bland step out of her car, she grabbed her cell phone and began recording.
So you're threatening to drag me out of my own car? Get out of the car! And then you're going to stop me? You up.
The arrest was captured on dash cam video, but this cell phone video has not been publicly seen until now. Encenia pulled over Bland in 2015 for a failure to signal a lane change. The encounter quickly escalated. The 28-year-old was arrested and booked in the Waller County Jail. 3 days later, she was found dead in her cell. Her death was ruled a suicide.
Get out of the car now.
Why am I being apprehended? The video was obtained by the nonprofit news organization, The Investigative Network. Bland's family says it's proof she should have never been detained. Insania said he feared for his life.
This video clearly shows from Sandy's vantage point that she was doing nothing more than asking questions.
Cannon Lambert is the family's attorney and helped them settle with Waller County and the state for nearly $2 million. He says prosecutors never gave him the video.
If they had it and they walked away from prosecuting, it is very difficult to understand.
Get over there.
Insania was fired after he was indicted for lying about the traffic stop, but the perjury charge was later dropped when he agreed to never work in law enforcement again. Chip Lewis represented him.
The tragedy that was this young lady's death should have never happened. It was not Trooper Insinia's fault that it happened.
The Texas Department of Public Safety says this video is not new and they did not conceal it. Also right now, Democratic presidential hopeful Beto O'Rourke, who is from Texas, as well as other state legislators, are asking that Bland's arrest and the case be reopened right now. Nora?
All right, Maria, thank you.
Open up the case, period. Sandra Bland's family demands answers over new video of her arrest. You know I'm going to say that again. Open up the case, period. Sandra Bland's family demands answers over new video of her arrest. This story was done today, May the 7th, 2019, coming from the Washington Post, and this is how it reads. New cell phone video taken by Sandra Bland shows her view of the traffic stop that sparked nationwide protests in 2015. The clip starts with the furious voice of a Texas state trooper. "Get out of the car now," he shouts. When the woman filming asks why he would threaten to drag me out of my car, the trooper pulls out his taser. "Get out of the car," he screams, pointing at her torso. "I will light you up." 3 days later, the woman wielding the cell phone, a 28-year-old recent transplant named Sandra Bland, who had been pulled over for failing to signal a lane change, would die in jail. Her death ruled a suicide. The trooper, Brian Insania, would later be fired and charged with perjury, though the charges wouldn't stick, and his dashboard camera footage of her arrest would play for weeks on national news shows. But until a Dallas news station obtained and aired the cell phone clip on Monday night, no one has seen Bland's own view of that tense moment in July of 2015, including her family and the attorney who represented them in civil court. Now, Bland's family is alleging that the Texas Department of Public Safety purposely withheld the video, raising fresh questions about official misconduct in a case that became a linchpin on the Black Lives Matter movement, sparking nationwide protests and demands for police accountability. Open up the case, period, Bland's sister, Shantae Needham, told WFAA, which unearthed the video in partnership with the non-profit investigative network. Officials with the Texas Department of Public Safety denied those claims and say the cell phone video was included in a large batch of evidence given to the Bland's family attorneys. The premise that the video was not produced as part of the discovery process is wrong, the department told the ABC affiliate in a statement. A hard drive containing copies of 820 gigabytes of data compiled by DPS from its investigation, including the dash cam video, jail video footage, and data from Sandra Bland's cell phone, was part of discovery. But Cannon Lambert, the Bland's family attorney, said that's simply not true. "I've not seen it," Lambert told a WFAA reporter of the cell phone recording. "If they had turned it over, I would have seen it." "I will light you up," Texas officer threatened Sandra Bland with taser during traffic stop. Bland was pulled over by a senior on July 10, 2015 in Weiler County, Texas, which is about 50 miles northwest of Houston. The native of Naperville, Illinois, had recently moved there to take a job at her alma mater, Prairie View A&M University, where she worked as a camp counselor, studied agriculture, and joined a sorority. Bland's roadside exchange with the trooper quickly turned heated after a senior demanded that she put out a cigarette, and she refused. And senior dash cam footage, which was released later that month, showed the trooper escalating the situation until Bland left her car under threat of taser and was eventually arrested. 3 days later, she was found dead in the Weiler County Jail. Officials ruled the cause suicide by hanging. But Bland's family cried foul, and civil rights activists quickly took up the cause. Bland's name became the latest byword for police misconduct. In this probable cause statement, the senior said he instructed Bland to leave her car to conduct a safe traffic investigation, and he told investigators that my safety was in jeopardy at more than one time. But the grand jury later found that the trooper had lied, ruling instead that he removed Sandra Bland from her vehicle because he was angry she would not put out her cigarette. The jury recommended perjury charges, which were filed in January of 2016, and Senior was fired later that year. The grand jury recommended no criminal charges in connection with Bland's death. However, and prosecutors dropped Senior's perjury charge in 2017 in exchange for giving up his credentials and agreeing never to work as a cop again. Bland's family sued the Texas Department of Public Safety in Weiler County and reached a $1.9 million settlement. But her family said it never had a chance to review Bland's own footage from the arrest during those proceedings. Perjury charges dropped against Texas trooper who arrested Sandra Bland. In the cell phone video, Bland leaves her car after Senior pulls his taser, saying, "Wow, you're doing all this for a failure to signal?" The trooper then orders her to get off the phone. Bland responds that I have a right to record, before apparently acceding to his demands and turning off the cell phone. The video makes it abundantly clear there was nothing she was doing in that car that put him at risk at all. Lambert, her family attorney, told the Associated Press on Monday. Senior attorney argued otherwise, telling that the AP that the newly released video doesn't show anything more than the dash cam footage already did. There's also disagreement about whether the cell phone video was included in discovery in the Bland's family civil trial. The footage was mentioned in an investigative report. WFAA reported, and Special Prosecutor Darrell Jordan told the station he had the video for grand jury proceedings. The Texas Department of Public Safety told the AP it had also given the video to an Austin area TV station in 2017 as part of a records request. But Lambert insists that he had never seen it, telling the AP that human error on the part of the investigator could be to blame. Bland's sister had a more sinister take. We also know they have an extremely good cover-up system, Needham told WFFA. Needham argues that the cell phone footage offers more proof that Senior should face criminal charges over the encounter. The clip not only shows that the Senior lied, Needham told WFAA, but that he really had no business even stopping her, period. And at the end of the day, he needs to go to jail. One state representative from the area had already promised a new probe into whether the video was properly shared. It is troubling that a crucial piece of evidence was withheld from Sandra Bland's family and legal team in their pursuit of justice. State Rep. Garnett Coleman, Democrat of Houston, who sponsored a bill named after Bland that increased resources for mentally ill inmates and added new police accountability measures, said in a statement. As chair of the House Committee on County Affairs that looked into the death of Sandra Bland, I will make sure that the committee will also look into how this happened. All right, so
So, we see the resurgence again of Sandra Bland. That happened back in 2015, a story that pretty much everybody had heard of. And we see that based on the story here, a reemergence of her side due to the fact that she had videoed from her perspective, which was her own property, right? And somehow during the trial, that particular part of the evidence was never disclosed, even though it was part of discovery, right? And so, again, this is just reiterating what everybody already known, but again, based on the testimony that he gave, he lied in the testimony, right? So this article here that goes on again, it talks about how he told her to get out of the car. He had shouted at her. He threatened to drag me out of my own car. You heard her say. And then it was that he told her to get out of the car, and he had the taser pointed at her torso and said he would light her up. Now remember, he was only pulling her over for failure to turn signal in lane, right? Now here was Sandra Bland was only about 28 years old. Again, it was about failing to signal a lane change, which again, that's kind of questionable. It's kind of like somebody just using the air freshener. If you're from where I'm from, they could use the air freshener to pull you to is obstructing your view. Wouldn't I know that before you? How can you tell me something obstructing my view just because you passing and seeing me? But if I'm driving and I'm the one that need to be looking, shouldn't I be the one to have that observation first before you tell me? Or that just some kind of nonsense, right? But anyway, so we understand you use a change of lane to go ahead into a coaster, right? And so they had ruled her death a homicide. Now again, can somebody who got time, right? Black people, we know about people in jail, right? Because we are the biggest, when we talk about population, I think we know something about jail, right? We know police station, we know county, and we know prison, right? Most time if you going to the police station, right? Used to be you wait for an I bond. If you didn't have nothing serious, you just some little misdemeanor nonsense, you get the I bond, you up out of there, before you get the bologna sandwich, right? Don't know what I'm talking about, right? You gonna get the bologna sandwich, right? So if you just gonna be in lockup and you done made the call and people are making arrangements to get your bond, bond $100, right? Maybe it's $1,000. You got a $10,000 D bond, $1,000, maybe $5,000 D bond, $500. Right? You can have a little bond. You can have $1,000 bond, $100, right? So she had to make the call. So family making arrangements again. They in Illinois, she in Texas, right? So okay, you gotta sit there. Now you under the impression knowing this is gonna manifest, this is coming, it's gonna come to fruition. Why would you off yourself? Logically, why would you off yourself knowing this? But that's what they want us to believe. They want us to believe that that woman, Sandra Bland, under a situation that is so minor, it's like, why ain't you just getting the ticket? How do you get from changing lanes to being locked up in the first place? Unless she has suspended license, no insurance, you know what I'm saying? That whole thing. Or had ticket already, right? And then, you know what I'm saying, then you go through the prison. But how do you get from changing lane to get into this police station in the first damn place, right? So we see the cop, name is Brian Acina, who later on they're going to fire him, charge him with perjury. Now let's say you got a case and you get caught lying. Are they going to say, all right, we're going to let you go, but promise never come back in my courtroom ever again? Is that what they're going to tell you? Or they going to hold that to you? Well, that's what he got. He got caught lying under perjury, and somehow they come back and they drop the case, right? And you know, this whole Sandra Bland situation became the linchpin for Black Lives Matter, right? That's what remember, that's where that was a linchpin in that, right? So you see the sister, again, being hurt about what done transpired. You know, when you close to somebody, you know the conduct. You know what I'm saying? You know what kind of person they is. You know whether they'll take their life. Now, again, there could be some situations unbeknownst that's happening in the background. You don't know, people going through stuff. It could be economical, physical, it could be medical, a whole lot of things, right? That person might do that, but not in that situation. Why would you kill yourself? Hang yourself? You understand? So again, we know it's right. Walk like a duck, quack like a duck, look like a duck, must be a duck, but they gonna tell you, nah, that's a dog. You know what I'm saying? Gonna make you think something else. So we see that the Texas Department of Public Safety denied those claims when they talked about the cell phone video was included in a large batch. Now see, large batch means it was a lot of stuff in there. It was just that. There was a lot of stuff. Maybe he overlooked it. See, you're playing the game, right? The game is trying to make you think that, see, we gave it, right? And so it was part of the discovery process, right? Right? And so what they did is they gave you some examples, right? They said, well, they told the ABC affiliates in a statement that it was a hard drive that contained a copy of about 820 gigabytes of data, that we, the Dallas Police Department, what we did was we gave, that was part of the investigation, and we gave you the dash cam, and we gave you the jail video footage, and we gave you also Sandra Bland's, her cell phone stuff, right? That was all part of the discovery. We gave it to you, right? Now, here was her attorney, which was Cannon Lambert, right? That was the Bland family attorney, right? And he would say, man, that's simply not true. Now, what does he gain by saying you didn't give me something? Wouldn't he be perjuring? Isn't he a lawyer? Can't you get his license revoked if he's lying? Wouldn't it be incumbent on you as this department that, no, you're not going to put no bad name on us? Matter of fact, maybe it was video when we put everything in the package. Because I don't think we can take everybody that you signed off to say that was in there. I think we need to see some physically tangible visual so we can say what really took place. Because it seems like people's word is never credible, because even the person who did the so-called arrest seen that he perjured. Well, if you would do it, what makes you think the rest won't do it, right? So we see that he said that he hadn't seen it, right? If they had turned it over, I would have seen it. That's what he stated. Now think about that. I send you a package, right? You kind of waiting on the package. It looks kind of like you get from Amazon, right? You get your package, you open it, you looking for what you purchased. If it's not in there, you gonna do what? You gonna hit up the I didn't receive. You gonna call somebody up. You gonna write the complaint. You understand? There's a process, right? So he said he didn't see it. Now I don't know what happened to that part. I don't know if there was anything foul said, or I guess if you didn't know, how did you know? But you don't know until the day of it when it's happening in the court. Again, whatever, right? Okay. Now again, she had went to school in Texas at Prairie View A&M, so she's a little accustomed about Texas. And I'm just saying, if you ain't from Texas, I don't know if that kind of place you just be, messing around in, right? Because they got the issues, right? Now again, she's part of a, study agriculture. She's part of a sorority. But it seemed like the whole issue was really about her putting that cigarette out, right? And so based on, again, what they say, give an inch, or, give some people a little bit of power, right? And they get real swole. They real big, give a badge and a gun. You know what I'm saying? They were little people before, and then now you give them that authority. They abuse it, right? And we know that police will abuse authority. It don't have to be custom, it can be anybody, right? It just happens. But again, if your whole position is really dealing with the individual because of the infraction, the violation of traffic, they in their car. Wait, why do you have to stop them? Okay, they smoking. Okay, you don't smoke, but you outside. You ain't in the car, right? Now she's smoking and blowing smoke in your damn face and all that. Look. Could you not do that? You understand? But to demand for me to take my cigarette out, what jurisdiction do you have for that? Really, what jurisdiction? Because you say so? And because I don't do that, now you got an issue with me, right? And that's where this whole systemicness of this is coming from. So he threatened to taser her. Then he arrested her. And we seen how that went down, tackling her, roughing her up, all that. Okay. She said some things. She pulled this man car. You know how sister you can get, right? She said some things, right? She said some things. But that didn't merit for that whole situation. Again, you done put me in a situation that is unwarranted. It's not necessary, right? So what ended up happening then, you see that he instructs her to leave the car, and he uses safe traffic investigation. Hold on, wait a minute. He said the reason why he got her out the vehicle is because he wanted to do a safe traffic investigation. Nick, all you was doing is pulling up for traffic. You didn't turn no turn signal. Here's a ticket. Let me run your license, see if you ain't got no warrants. We good. Here's your ticket. I'm on by my long head. Ain't that how it's supposed to go? What you mean? I need you out the car so I can do a safe... What? Come on, man. See? Some people are not to be in a position to have a little power that has something to do with life and death. Some of these mugs need to be under psychological evaluations, and if you did that, you'd probably lose a lot of your police force out here. Because who really wants that job? Now, they commendable when you're doing that work. But really, if you got the same mind and the way things is today, who out here trying to run, you know what I'm saying? Now, I know you're a little kid. I want to be a police officer when I'm little. Yeah, until you understand what it's really about. Now, those commendables that do it, and that's why they probably get a lot of the cats that come from the military, right? You getting there, putting them in there, and you know they be having psychological, because they done did a lot of craziness being in the military. Now they on the damn street. And you think that's why it ain't rampant out here the way it is? Yeah, okay. Right. So he also then goes and says that his safety was in jeopardy more than one time. I'm going to say that again. According to the article, he said, Brian Semenya said that his safety was in jeopardy more than one time. Wow. Why are you a cop? See, it's like this byword people keep using, trying to justify what they doing, and just saying to the fact that I hate motherfuckers and I'm doing what I'm doing. Just say it. Quit acting like that. Her words was hurting you. We gonna do this in court. How was you in jeopardy? No, because see, even the jury, the grand jury said the reason why you did what you did is because you were angry because she didn't put the cigarette out. So the jury recommended perjury charges. They recommended, but guess who overturned it? The prosecutor. The prosecutor dropped the charges. Kind of like in Chicago, right? With the Jussie Smollett situation, right? She dropped the charge and everybody, hey, he was saying that he was getting, but he never gave a description. He might have said white guys and wear mega hats, but he never gave no description. They never showed you no picture. He just made a point that a lot of them, I ain't agreeing with it. Don't get it twisted now. I ain't agreeing with it. I'm just saying, that's what he said. He did it. He pranked himself. But the thing is, he said some things that, again, that's sensitive. You playing with, because you know how that go. But she did what a lot of these prosecutors do when these things that are not in the eyes of you, when white folks' kids are doing all this. Right? But see, he did the same thing. He perjured. And yet, he get to go, don't never try to be a police officer again, and we good. Huh? But that woman lost her life based on the stuff that you did. There's a cause and effect here. If your cause caused her, let's say you say suicide, she did it, what part of your, again, your unjurisdictional reasonings and rights did you have to put her in the situation to cause her to do that? You're not culpable nowhere? See? So that's what the sister's saying, that she's saying that he needs to be held, for liability to go to jail for his cause and effect. He the one that put her in the risk of doing it. If you say that's how y'all going to determine she died. But again, they never guilty. It's always you. It's never them. It's always you. See, when they point the finger at you, they say it's 3 fingers point back at you. Matter of fact, 4, because that thumb kind of curving back like you, right? So when you are pointing at me, it's like 4 pointing back at you, right? But again, we want to give that sister, because again, I believe that her spirit is crying back. She wants some justice. You understand? And all they did is pat this mug and let you ain't getting no job. I don't know. I think his credentials. I guess he can't get no pension or with all that. But that ain't nothing. That's the equivalent of somebody losing them life. But again, we understand there's 2 different ways how this works. So I got one more. And matter of fact, let me go ahead this PSA, because I see a couple people's up in here. So since you're in here, why don't you let me hold something? I always ask my people, let me hold a little something, because I am the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. You're going to figure it out. You keep coming over here, you're going to figure out why. I just got off a 90-day suspension. You didn't know that? Check this out. Let me hold this and come right back. I said to my brother, Mr. Spencer 620, yes, sir, I am back on my 90-day suspension, brother. Yes, I am back. Again, I want to say to Sharon Washington and Cheryl Rue. I want to thank y'all for being out here, giving likes and so forth and everything like that. Leonard DeYuta and everything else. But that ain't us. I got one more before it's over. I promise to be on every day until they won't let me on no more, right? I know I be telling y'all that, and I know they be like, no, it be things happen. That's all it is. But this one here is for us, the family, right? This one right here. I was going to get a dissertation, but I'm not even going to do that, because I'm going to end the show after that one. Maybe I'll do it. I'm going to go ahead and do it. Anyway, this one is a reading, but it's good reading. This one here is something you didn't get told. Most don't know. See, I find the article that they're doing, and I'm going to give you the history behind it, right? So check this out. Because see, again, earlier, if you didn't get to see about the slave Bible and all this stuff, right? So, we kind of package in a certain way psychologically, right? And then again, we have people who come here from other nations. Again, we family. We don't trip on that. But they don't understand our plight and what it was, what we've been through. We're on the 400-year anniversary. They've been telling us when we was in school, Lincoln freed the slaves. He was the great emancipator. They told us all that, right? Right? But there was another side to this that I stumbled across, doing some reading. I was like, I got to give it to y'all. I got to do it. So check this out. Now, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do the dissertation after the fact. Check this out. And check this out. Remember that time Abraham Lincoln tried to get the slaves to leave America? I'm going to say that again. Remember that time Abraham Lincoln tried to get the slaves to leave America? This story comes from the Pacific Standard, April 23rd, 2013. And this is how it reads. No, you don't. But it happened well into his presidency. Aaron Gordon speaks to the man who has tried to paint a true human portrait of the great emancipator, even if we don't want to hear it. There's an Abraham Lincoln you probably know. Tall, bearded, badass president who freed the slaves with an axe while fighting off the Confederate Army, which may or may not have been made up of vampires. Other than the beard, and what a beard it was, and his stature, the Lincoln in Lincoln isn't really Lincoln. Rather, Spielberg's character and the Lincoln that permeates our culture is one of the ideal, unflawed statesmen. The movie covers up his warts and makes him less interesting and less human. Oh, and it ignores the fact that he tried to convince the slaves he so famously freed to leave the country before and even after emancipation. Dr. Philip Magnus wrote the book on Lincoln's true, way more complicated post-emancipation relationship with slavery. While it's not even commonly conceded that Lincoln attempted to recolonize the free slaves at any point, scholars generally believe that he considered and then dismissed the ideal pre-emancipation, but even that's yet to take hold of the popular imagination. Magnus took it a step further, digging into historical documents and finding that Lincoln actively pursued a recolonization well after signing the Emancipation Proclamation. It's something that should change everything about our relationship to Honest Abe. Yet, it's still being roundly ignored by the public. Like much of the pre-existing scholarships on our former president's racist convictions, I sat down with Magnus, a friend and a colleague, to talk about his work, some of the lesser known stories he and other scholars have written on, and about who Abraham Lincoln might have really been. I'm sure you uncovered a nuisance, complicated story, which you detailed in your book, Colonization After Emancipation, Lincoln and the Movement for Black Resettlement. But this is for the internet. What is the internet version of your findings? Well, it's the antithesis of Steven Spielberg's portrait in many respects. The storybook version is from roughly late 1861 onward. Lincoln was involved in some very serious policy discussions about what the post-slavery United States would look like. And one of his solutions that he offered, drawn on something that had long been a part of his political advocacy, was to colonize the slaves abroad. Historically, the most famous example of this is Liberia, which was founded in 1816, and over the course of the next 50 or 60 years, several thousand former slaves migrated to Liberia and colonized it. Lincoln liked this model, but wanted to expand upon it. And he was willing to look in Central and South America and across the Caribbean. He pursued this policy for the better part of his presidency, secured funding from Congress in 1862, and carried it out in conjunction with the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. Previously, there was a fairly strong historical consensus that he had abandoned this idea. Some people even argue that he did it as an international political ruse to distract the public from his emancipation policy. Frederick Douglass says the President of the United States has become an itinerant colonization preacher who has made himself look ridiculous, but pitching this idea that we should leave the nation of our birth. Fitting into this marble man's caricature, yes, the clever statesman, where everything is a chess piece to bring the population on board with emancipation. So my argument, and I think the evidence is fairly strong in support of this, is that was not the case at all. This was a genuine, heartfelt conviction that went to the core of his political principles, and he carried out this idea into the later years of his presidency, where he did back away from it due to administration snags and political infighting. What exactly are we talking about when you use the word colonization? It's a pretty charged term. It came from the forming organization that drove colonization policies from 1860 onward, an organization known as the American Colonization Society. They were responsible for the foundings of Liberia. They were the caretakers of Liberia until essentially its independence. They're best described as an anti-slavery centrist organization. The movement gained significant distrust in three areas. The more radical abolitionist movement because it's compromising the ideals of freedom. The African American community because it asks free blacks to leave their country of birth. And the South because it proceeds as conspiratorial routes to undermine slavery. When Lincoln gets involved, he expands the colonization spirit to the Caribbeans. He sees this, at least in part, as an American imperial opportunity to expand our region of influence to the Caribbean trading zones and the Isthmus of Panama in particular. In fact, there's one notion colonization speech he gives to a black delegation where he says, I want you to go to Panama and form the highways between the oceans that we have been waiting for, essentially the Panama Canal. Did any of the colonization efforts actually come to fruition? One of them actually did come to fruition in addition to Liberia. Lincoln signed a contract with a proprietor of an island off the coast of Haiti called the Île Banche. The Île Banche was a small uninhabited island just off the southern coast of Haiti, part of Haiti's possession and territory. This contractor, a former merchant, had been in Haiti and had secured a paper from the Haitian government giving him ownership of this island. On December 31st, 1862, the evening before he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, Lincoln met with this contractor and they drafted terms to get federal subsidized transit and supplies to move up to 5,000 colonists to the island, or to this island. There are a multitude of problems that hit this expedition. The first, an epidemic of smallpox breaks out aboard the ship while it's en route to Haiti. The infected sailors were placed in a quarantine zone, but they didn't have enough supplies to handle this from a medical perspective because they were awaiting a second supply ship that was supposed to bring food, lumber, medicine, and further workers. During the course of the intervening months, a dispute breaks out between the proprietor of the island and his financiers back in New York City, and between the financiers and the Secretary of the Interior in Washington. As a result, the second ship never comes, and in fact, they cancel all the remaining ventures to send further colonists as well. So the 500 are left on the island, and the contractor Lincoln made the agreement with has certain despotic tendencies that emerge over the course of the journey. He decides, as any good autocrat does, to confiscate all metallic money from the former slaves had brought with them and exchange it for paper currency he had issued on his own, and then declares that he only is going to accept his own paper currency as payment for food and supplies on the island. He refused to build sufficient dwellings, food stocks or anything that would be necessary to sustain the colony. After several months of this, with the smallpox epidemic still raging, the proprietor is driven off the island almost by force of arms. This results in the New York investors coming in who try to rescue the situation by replacing him with one of their own agents. But then the first wave of crops they had planted failed. So it is a succession of disaster. By the late 1863, the colony is effectively abandoned. Several of the colonists flee to the main island of Haiti. Others try to start settlement on the beach. And as a result of this giant convergence of problems, in early of 1864, Lincoln had to send a ship back to Haiti to rescue the survivors and bring them back to the United States. Is there any count of how many free slaves were supposed to take part in the colonization movement? I mentioned the Haiti venture. The original intended count was 5,000. Belize, they wanted to take 5,000 a year over 10 years for a total of 50,000. Panama was a one-time venture that had a total of 50,000. So these are fairly substantial numbers. You start thinking that there are other projects under consideration that never really got off the ground. There's a shortage of willing participants in the black community. They find, especially after this first wave signed to go to Haiti and all the problems that emerged from that, the black community is already very suspicious of this. They don't provide the volunteers Lincoln is looking for, although he doesn't stop from trying to convince them and trying to give them assurances that this will be better if they get the project underway and take care of some of the problems that emerged. What rhetorical methods does Lincoln try and use to sell this to the black community? Lincoln takes what could be described as a very misguided benevolence. The best recorded instance of this was a speech he gave in 1862 when he invited a delegation of black ministers to the White House and basically told them, "We've undertaken this colonization venture. Here's why I think you should go." He proposes Panama. He alludes to that as the primary colony of the time, but it's a broader interest as well. He also says we recognize that slavery is a source of this war that's being waged, and slavery by its very presence on this continent has instilled violence. The way to get around that violence, which is one of the more notorious lines of the speech, is you need to leave. You will find a peaceful existence abroad, and we will find a peaceful existence here. There's a genuine effort on his part to market this to the black community. There are very mixed reactions to it. Some African Americans are outraged by it. Frederick Douglass called it a silly idea. Says the President of the United States has become an itinerant colonization preacher who has made himself look ridiculous by pitching this idea that we should leave the nation of our birth. Douglass argues they have historical presence here, the same as any other American. Why should they leave? Which is a very powerful and valid argument. There are others that say maybe we don't agree fully on that motive or the motive that Lincoln has offered here, but it is indeed an escape from violence. There are several African Americans, two in particular, John Willis Menard, who was the first African American elected to Congress, and Henry Highland Garnett, who was a very vocal black abolitionist minister in New York City, who are both warmer to the idea. They say maybe we can attain better political equality abroad. Maybe we can find somewhere else that will respect our rights. They liken themselves to the conditions of, say, the Irish leaving the famine just a decade earlier. What has the reaction to your research been like? I imagine some people aren't too thrilled with the idea of Lincoln kindly asking the free slaves to leave the country. there's a segment of both the scholarly community and more significantly the public at large that has accused me of writing an indictment of Lincoln, which is not my purpose at all. I want to tease out the historical truth. I want to reveal what was really going on in his mind as he was coping with the slavery problem. But there are some who say, oh, here's this historian that is besmirching the legacy of this president that we claim as our forebearer. But it's not a very deep resistance in the sense that it's more emotional than anything based in evidence, although it does lead people to routes where they're not willing to consider new evidence. I will mention there are other segments of the public and scholarly community that are receptive to the argument I've made. I receive a lot of discussions, compliment, praise from other scholars that work on Lincoln and had always wondered about this issue of colonization, that something wasn't fully drawn out. And here I put forth some evidence that has furthered this discussion, that has furthered their understanding in a vague, shaded area of Lincoln's presidency that was not really well known up until that point. So you can venture off in dangerous territories to either extreme, either making him into the perfect angelic savior of American democracy and racial egalitarianism, or you can turn him into the demon figure that destroyed the republic. I'm not looking to do either. I'm trying to find out a more realistic picture of a human Lincoln that falls somewhere in between. It seems to me, at least, the more of an understanding we gain of an individual's complexities and flaws, the more we ought to respect them, understanding Lincoln as a real human rather than this caricature ideal ought to make him even more respectable. It certainly filters into the Spielberg's movie and popular portrayals that Lincoln was a man who came to Washington with conviction, had all the answers, knew how he was going to end slavery from the day he arrived, and put everything on that perfect path to inevitable fruition. That is not human. That's not realistic. And it's not an accurate portrayal of the challenges he faced. In fact, Lincoln himself adamantly denied he ever had a plan, a master plan going into the Civil War to bring about the results that he did. He said, I have not professed to be the controller of events, but have rather been controlled by events. And he made his decision in response to the circumstances around him. Some of those decisions were good, some of those decisions were bad, and some of them had vague gray areas that are very uncertain. Colonization is one of those decisions that falls into greater uncertainty simply because Lincoln did not know how the end of slavery was going to emerge or what it was going to look like. If we accept that about him, it makes him a much more complex and interesting figure. Someone who is emerging from the Civil War not knowing what the future entails, but is trying to do something about it, trying to find a route that is workable, even if we can judge in hindsight that routes to the fundamentally impractical, implicitly racist by some measures. Certainly heavily paternalistic, and not always fully taken into account the agencies of African Americans, but it is not a malicious plan either. God damn, man. All right. So, I know that was a little bit long, but it's worth it. And again, Sister Cheryl Ruth, a lot of people were not as well. So, again, what I try to do as a historian whiteologist is I try to bring things again to edify my people. I love black folks, right? That's not against anybody else who might be of other ethnicity or race. I'm just saying I do have a mind because I understand the condition of what we come through and come from. So this part of history you won't get unless you do the kind of reading. So let's look at some of this. So I wasn't going to do the dissertation part, but I said, no, it wouldn't be right if I didn't, right? So we see here that there was a time, it said, remember that time when Abraham Lincoln tried to get the slaves to leave America. Now, a lot of people wouldn't have not known that because the only thing they say is, well, Lincoln was the emancipator. He freed the slaves. You know what I'm saying? It was just emancipation, you know, and that whole thing. But there was two sides to that because you got to remember, if those who seen the live that time, remember when I did the Lincoln and Douglas debate? Remember, they cut me off that night, right? When I did the Lincoln part, they cut me off. You got the Douglas side, and they cut that Lincoln, right? Because Lincoln had said that to save the Union, he didn't give 2 cents whether the blacks be slaves or not. The Civil War really is based on the fact that they was expanding. So everybody wanted to make it seem like it was about, no. What it was is that, remember when they started to expand in this nation westward, right? When they started to expand west. So what ended up happening was these, let's say, the colonies of plantations wanted to expand their business. And they was like, no, we can't allow y'all to do that because, you know, when you look at it from a political standpoint, based on, you know, the numbers, they were able to have more representation in government. So if they were going to expand before you know it, you know what I'm saying? This whole nation would have been under that, right? So we get to see the Most High hand in here, right? That's what we're going to say. We're going to see the Most High hand in here. So with that being said, we see that this scholar or this historian named Philip Magnus, who wrote this about this aspect about Lincoln. And so a lot of people try to dismiss the idea about the pre-emancipation, which is before the emancipation, right? And try to hold in the popular imagination of the things that they gave us about Lincoln. And so what this individual did is he went and sifted through all the historical documents, finding, trying to piece back how Lincoln, dealing with the situation and what were some of the other things, because we know that they went to Liberia. We know that they created an organization that created back to Liberia. But here's the other aspect. Again, unless you read in the history, you wouldn't know this. And so a lot of people in the public's eye are not trying to hear that because, again, you know how certain people want to portray their heroes in a certain light with no blemishes, no flaws, right? Comic book characters and heroes. And again, remember the Spielberg Lincoln fighting werewolves with an axe and all that, right? But again, we pretty sure there's probably some kind of symbolism to something else, right? So what we see is that Lincoln was involved in some very serious policy discussions about what to do with post-slavery United States and what it would look like. And so we see that some of the solutions that he had offered was drawn up on the fact that his mindset was to actually colonize the slaves abroad. Remember, going back to I don't think I said it, but Lincoln had said in the debate against Douglas about slavery and how he didn't care about the slave and that the slave was never equal, nor you know what I'm saying? He made it very distinct that he didn't give 2 cents. He didn't really care. And so we see that according to this article here, the solution that he had drew upon was, again, trying to bring us abroad. So Liberia was one, which, again, they said founded. Now, I don't understand what this thing about white folks and how they talk about exploration and finding and discovery when somebody already there. I never understood that, right? But that's how they get down. So here it was, they send back some ancestors that end up going to Liberia, who they end up giving them, weapons, and they had to kill off those who were already there to get established Liberia. But that part, they don't talk about that. They don't talk about that, right? Right? So it took about 50, 60 years for them to establish that. And then it took about 1,000 of the former slaves, and they migrated and colonized what they call Liberia. And so Lincoln liked that. So he decided, well, let's expand on that, right? Now you got to look at this. Now think about what he ended up getting at the end, which is getting his life taken. You knew that's not what he wanted. Remember, he said he'd do whatever it takes to save the Union. That means he was trying to save himself too. It wasn't like people trying to act like the North didn't have the same thing going on in the South. That's what they trying to act like. See, they were talking about here, talking about going to the North. They weren't talking about in the United States, talking about Canada. They weren't talking about in the United States, right? So, by him having the idea, the grandiose idea, okay, we got Liberia, so let's get some other places. So he started looking at places in Central and South America, going across the Caribbeans, right? So what he did in 1862, we see that he gets secured funding from Congress to carry out this conjunction with emancipation that he's going to set in 1863. So he got the money. Now here again, there's some money that's been set aside for us that Lincoln put about trying to get us to relocate. Well, we want that money with the interest on it too. What about that too? We talking about some of that too? Oh, don't talk about that, right? We ain't supposed to talk about that. Okay, but anyway. So what happened is you get a consensus of people who were trying to abandon the idea of him trying to do that, right? And so that what kind of took it off the table. And so some people were kind of split and say, well, maybe he's just doing this as a ruse. Maybe this is not what he was doing. He's really trying to push the emancipation because, again, it's kind of like reparations. White folks ain't trying to hear that. They got every excuse in the book than other than the fact that you know what done took place. Why don't you give them something? Look at the conditions. You know what done did, but they ain't trying to have that. So the same thing there. You about to free them, but what they going to do? Where they going to live at? Where they going to work at? They ain't going to be better than me, huh? So they got problems with it because, again, think about it. Our ancestors had all the skills. They did all the work. So it'd have been easy, really, if they could have got a startup kit, settled and been on their own. They'd have had businesses and everything else. And when they had been, you know what I'm saying, dealing with you, they'd have been self-sufficient. But no, that ain't what you want to do. You want to play the game, the rules. We're gonna get you back in there, and every time you come up to try to pay you, you're gonna come up short. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna keep this perpetual, right? So we see that, you know, the colonization, as they say, the American Colonization Society, they were the ones who was responsible for them creating Liberia, that whole aspect about that. They were the caretakers of Liberia until essentially they became independent, right? But you know there's always some strings attached to that. And so it says that the more radical abolitionists, now remember we talked about earlier with the slave Bible about them abolitionists, right? They the one that co-signed about having a Bible that would be slanting your mind to make you obedient to them. But these are the same ones that are trying to also free you. You don't even speak but forked tongue, right? So it was the abolition they claimed at the movement because it's compromising the ideal of freedom. Now they saying the concept of ideal of freedom is not going, well, if we put them over there, they're not going to really be free because, again, you're going to have a conflict. If you put in new people among some people, let's say what happened. I'm going to give you what I believe was a reality. You remember what happened with Katrina, and you remember when they took everybody after the disaster that happened with Katrina and dispersed them in all different other places, Houston and all that. What ended up happening after that? Didn't the crimes in them areas go way up? Didn't the crimes go all the way up? Why? Because you're taking people who, let's say they hustlers and, you know, and all this other stuff from these areas that don't have this no more, and then they got to start over new in a new place, and this is the game and this is the way they make their money. So that's going to be a conflict of interest. Those who are already there versus the new ones coming in, and what happened? So the crime skyrocketed up during that period of time, right? So that's what would have happened if you're going to take us being here and then bringing us over to these other places. There was gonna be, ain't gonna be no Pan-African like they trying to talk about that, which that still to me is still. I got something in this that they said in here that's gonna talk about this Pan-Africanism thing they be talking about, right? But anyway, so you see that Lincoln, right? Well, we go back to the abolitionists, right? So they was looking at the African community because it asked free blacks to leave their own country of birth. See, they said, well, how you going to ask them to leave when we know they done built this place? You know how white folks so quick when they get angry at you, well, take your ass back to Africa. Nick, we built this country. We don't need to go back there. We built this one, right? But because of the way you look at us as slaves, you don't recognize that, right? Ain't nobody. Why are we leaving when we the one built it? Who does that? So you gonna ask them who built it to leave? What kind of person is you, right? That's what you gotta ask you. What kind of person is you? So that's what the abolitionists were saying. Well, that wouldn't be right. That would not be right. And they said, well, the South, the South, well, it'll be conspiratorial because we undermine slavery if we let them free. It's like we took the slaves from them and they don't get nothing, so that's why they end up getting reparated, right? Slave owners got reparated for having us in the condition. They got reparated, right? Right? Because we were property, right? Well, that's what was his name? Castro. Remember when he came out and put the video out? When he talking about, well, it said, well, if you can pay the slave owners for property that they own, well, can't you pay the property because they was property? They was considered property. Can't you pay them because they were property? Yeah, Julio Castro, right? So you see that they got into the ideal about the Caribbeans, right? They want to expand the colonization spheres to the Caribbean. And so American imperialism opportunity to expand our region of influence, the Caribbean trading zone. So they want to say, well, if we start putting them in these areas, that would be beneficial for the country, and it's killing two birds with one stone. We put the slaves over here, and we actually kind of want the Isthmus of Panama. You know, they've been doing it. That goal, you know, when they got up in Panama, they've been trying to do that ever since we was trying to get rid of us here. So you see that Lincoln did this notorious colonization speech that he gave to black delegations. He told us straight up, I want you to go to Panama and form highways between the oceans that we've been waiting for. Essentially talking about the Panama Canal, right? Selling us that. Okay, what? Who was he talking to? The pastors, right? Well, every time we see that, pastors coming to the White House. Know your history. Anytime you see that, there's some deals going on back there. Somebody trying to get you to do something, right? So, right? So, we see that afterwards that Lincoln ended up, there was a dude that was somehow dealing in Haiti, right? And he was calling himself, he was some kind of proprietor. And there was an island called El Avance, right? And this dude somehow, I don't know if he black, I should have looked him up. Was he black? And somehow he had papers from the Haitian government giving him ownership of this island. So around December 31st, 1862, we see that Lincoln is making a deal with this cat, right? He's making a deal, and the evening before he issues the Emancipation Proclamation, guess who Lincoln is having a meeting with? This cat, this contractor. They draft up the terms, right? He gets the federal subsidized transit and supplies to move 5,000 to this island. Now, this is where the creator going to come in. Creator's like, nah, you ain't about to do this, homies. What? Come on, man. Let me show you the power of the Most High. Most High said, so what happened is when he sent that first batch over there, an epidemic of smallpox break out, right? Board the ship, right? On their way to Haiti. Now think about that. We be in Haiti. Look where Haiti, again, for anybody who might be Haitian, this is no knock on you. I understand the history. But I'm saying we here. We would be in Haiti. If this had fruition, most of us be in Haiti, Panama, somewhere, you know what I'm saying? They'd have had us all over. We wouldn't be where we is right now, right? And they'd have been over here lap of luxury off all we done built. But the creator said, nah, that ain't gonna happen. So he put that first smallpox on them, right? So what ended up happening? It couldn't get no ship supplies, couldn't bring no food, couldn't bring no lumber, no medicine, no more workers. And what happened? After a few months, dispute broke out. Hey, man, we not getting the money and all the stuff, the promises. So they got into a fight. And based on that fight, in the tears of Washington, the second ship don't come. They canceled the venture. And what happened? Lincoln said, the 500 that's on the island, bring their ass back here. And that's why we still here. That's why we still here. Right? So he tried to make a deal with them. He's like, well, if you stay, what we'll do is I'm going to make this greenback. You know, Lincoln had made the greenbacks. So what we're going to do is going to confiscate all the metallic money that y'all got from the former slaves. I don't know how they had money. I'm still trying to figure that part out, what he said. But we're going to exchange that money you got, and what we're going to do is I'm going to give you these greenbacks. And this is how you're going to be able to purchase stuff directly, and this is the only money we're going to exchange. Now, just imagine that would have had happened. Slaves would have just had that money, right? We'd have just had the money to the greenbacks. And then here he gets assassinated, he gets killed. That shit goes obsolete. We stuck like you know what I'm saying, on an island of Alabama with nothing, no supply, and Haiti. What? You see what I'm saying? So most houses like, nah, I'm the best chess player in the world. I see this. Ain't happening, Captain. You understand? And so what ended up happening, so based on the fact, Lincoln reneges. He refused to build a sufficient dwelling, the food and stocks and anything that was necessary to sustain the colony. He reneged. He didn't want to go say, well, we're going to do the greenbacks, and then he reneged, and so the whole shit fell apart, right? This is your great emancipator, This is the part they didn't want to talk about, right? So what we see is that several months had passed. The epidemic of the smallpox was still raging. So what happened? The proprietors that was on the island, they getting ran out by arms. I don't know if the Haitians was running them off, somebody running them off with arms. Maybe we was doing it, right? So now the first crops come up. Guess what? The crops failed. Like the Bottle Gorge plant. Who know that story? Bottle Gorge. He was trying to arrest some of that heat, and the Bottle Gorge plant came up, and then when he got a look, then the Bottle Gorge plant went away, right? Remember that? Well, that's what happened. No crops. They planted crops, but no crops didn't come up. So guess what? We ain't got no food, y'all. We ain't got no food, massa. We can't eat. You understand? And so, in 1863, the colony is effectively abandoned. Right? So what happened? Some of the colonists flee to the main islands of Haiti. There's some of the people who in Haiti right now who came from that adventure from that point in 1863. There's some people from Haiti who are part of that, right? For those who didn't know, trace it. Then you get back in that reparation, right? So anyway, so in 1864, we see Lincoln had a ship sent back to Haiti, rescue the survivors, bring them back to the United States. Right? Right. See? All right. Gotta take a break. My damn food here. One break, y'all. Sorry. I gotta go get this. So damn. I gotta do this. I got no choice. All right. I gotta do this, y'all. Damn, I got a story here. Hold on. Oh, hold on 1 second. Y'all had to go pick my food up. I'm sorry. All right. Wow, right? All right, so let me get back to where I was. I couldn't finish this off, get this over. Okay, so we see that Lincoln had made deals with different nations, or let's say countries, right? Haiti was going to take 5,000. Belize was going to take 5,000 a year for 10 years. Told about 50,000, right? Panama was going to take a one-time 50,000. So that's a lot. But that ain't all of us. And so, I had to run down there. All right, so what they end up happening is the first wave signs up to go to Haiti, and then all the problems, and what happened is we became suspicious. We're like, wait a minute, master. That's smallpox. That's a sign. God don't want us going there. So the people was like, we ain't trying to do that. You see what happened to them first ones, Cephas and all them? They all tore up. We ain't supposed to go. So you know what they go do? They say they called it a very misguided benevolence. That's how he was looking at it, right? So we see that he do that speech in 1862 and invited who? The black ministers to the White House. Where you seen that recently? Black ministers going to that White House. And what he told them is, you're going to take this colonization venture. And why I think you should go? He told them why? Because they want you to put in Panama. Right? And he says, right? And he said, we recognize that slavery is the source of this war that's being waged, and slavery, by its very presence on this continent, has instilled violence. He said, now the way to get around that violence is you need to leave. Huh? You need to leave. You'll find a peaceful existence abroad. And then he says, we will find a peaceful existence here. Huh? That's still prevalent to this day, ain't it? That's how people still look at it to this day. Oh, if you go back to Africa, we'll have peace here. Not that what you done did and what you're entitled to. That was so long ago, but you benefit today based on what happened a long time ago. Right? So what happened is our ancestors got outraged by it. And one of the main ones who got outraged, Frederick Douglass. Now I be hearing some people talking about Frederick Douglass and Pan-Africanism. But did you hear what he said? Frederick Douglass said. Frederick Douglass called it a silly idea. For what? Trying to send my people to Panama and Haiti, you know. Huh? He said this. He said the President of the United States has become an itinerant colonization preacher who has made himself look ridiculous by pitching this idea that we should leave the nation of our birth. Douglass argues they have a historical presence here, the same as any other American. Need I say that again? Should I say that again? I think I'm going to say that again. Frederick Douglass called it a silly idea. He said the President of the United States has become an itinerant colonization preacher who has made himself look ridiculous by pitching this idea that we should leave the nation of our birth. Douglass argues that having a historical presence here is the same as any other American. Why should they leave? Which is a very powerful and valid argument. But you hear people say, I don't understand why y'all sitting here trying to stay by. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. 400 years, homie. This was all we know. We might be descendants, but we more close to this than we is that. It's not saying we not that, but this is what we know. This is what we built. How y'all always trying to, somebody paying Africa, but ain't nobody putting no fight nowhere else. We the only one doing all the damn fight for everybody to get benefit. But everybody trying to underground railroad us, sitting in here while they underground and coming back over here. Them that they keep talking about that stuff right there. Frederick Douglass said the same thing. Why we got to leave? This is Earth. This is where my people was born. This is the land we built. Why we got to leave? And here's everybody telling us we need to be leaving. Check. Check. All right. Let's get this over with. Food hot. It says, then what you got is, it said maybe we don't agree fully on the motives that Lincoln has offered, but it is indeed an escape from violence. Now, you know who that was? That was John Willis Menard, who became the first elected to Congress, and Henry Highland Garnett. Now, you know you're going to always find somebody, you know how it is. We know the word we use. All the time, hey, well, maybe it's not a bad idea we go somewhere else. Now, ain't that something? We would be like everybody else trying to get up in here. We the only ones who got the most firm seat in here. That's why everybody get mad when we start talking. Because we know we've been here from the beginning. They say maybe we can attain better political equality abroad. How? Wait a minute. Politically abroad when they didn't even have systems of that. They didn't have this democracy everywhere else. So what was he talking about? Maybe we could find somewhere else that will respect our rights. Where? Because the same mug that you leaving is going around putting this flag on everybody else's moon. See? So the Most High was like, no, they stand right there. That's why I put them. That's why I want them. And that's where they going to stay. And that's going to be the conclusion of today's show. Let me see some of these things here. And I hope I get a little history on that. Right? Again, I try to edify, give you a lot of stuff when I can. Been gone for a minute. I didn't realize I did so long of a show that I did. But it's all good. It's all good over here. So, let's see. Let me see. I want to say to everybody in the house, once again, Cheryl Rue. I'm glad that you enjoyed and that you did get something out of this. Sharon Washington, my sister as well. Fella Cootie 360 in the house. What's good? Rock on as always. What's good, brother? Spencer 620. Who else is in the house? I know it was Leonard DeYuta. He probably gone by now. I'm pretty sure of that. Leonard DeYuta in the house, and that was about it. And anybody else who wasn't, it's all good. And again, I want to thank you for being here present on today's live show, the return of the Black Minds News. Hopefully I won't have to be as long, but again, since I've been gone, I don't know if they're going to, stop doing, but I want to appreciate all y'all who came out, first and foremost. Again, just glad to get it back in. And so you know how I got to end the show, right? I got to go on and do it the way I got to do it. Until the next show, you know what it is. Stay black. Stay vigilant. And anybody who may not be black or white, it ain't against you. This is just conversation that we having that we must have. It ain't nothing against you. This conversation we got to have. And the thing is, we don't have institutions and things to be trying to have no convening privately without you intervening. So guess what? We got to speak openly. So guess what? This is just facts. Anybody can see this. There ain't nothing to hide about that. So it is what it is. Until the next show, peace, love, and hair grease and all that. I will be opening up that phone line. When you see that number up there, you can call. Not today due to the fact I already done too long. But again, peace, love, and happiness and everything go well with everybody out here to the next show. Let's get it.
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything. Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Luther and I and everyone in this arena tonight are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on, and it definitely was not prepared for black people to, in the end, begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they've died for. Right on. Hey, and we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good news, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news.